Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
I'm sure no one will mind.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing, nutters, messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's Easter Sunday, so that means you're here sinning with the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse for episode 470 with me today, Steve Wellings, Andy Patterson. We also have Smitto joining us as well today. We'll see who else might wander in. We might have somebody checking in to discuss the new change with Cuban boxing. But right now, we're going to, speaking of Cuban boxing, Andy, I saw a few good rounds of competitive boxing last night, but then I saw about 5 rounds of the best Errol Spence I think I've seen in about 5 years. Plenty of work, hard punches, up and down, swole up that eye of Yordenis Ugas before the referee mercifully stopped it in the 10th round. Shaky moments. 6th round, got hurt, got his mouthpiece knocked out. But, Andy, this is the first time I've seen Errol Spence look mean in a long while, and the results paid off in the ring.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I've got to say that was very impressive for me last night. Spence apparently has been bringing in a strength and conditioning coach, obviously, to try and do the weight better. We mentioned we mentioned last week that it was the fight just before the car accident where he was complaining that he had to dump something like 25, 30 pounds. And it maybe showed up in his previous performances. But last night he was very, very mean, as you say. Very, very kind of left-hand happy as well. Every time he threw it, he had mean intentions behind it. I think as a result of his aggressiveness, that Ugas probably just wasn't active enough, to be honest with you. Spence just kept coming up with power shots, never gave him anything or any time to breathe, really, or even reset himself. I just think it was just too overwhelming, actually, I suppose, is the best thing I can probably say about Ugas. And you're right, he did some decent work, Ugas. Round 6, as you mentioned, he was probably the first time he had a wee bit of sustained success. Hurt Spence, as you say, visibly wobbled him. Obviously, he's away looking for his mouthpiece, and then he's caught a right hand that's kind of sank him into the ropes. But I did think for the remainder of that 6th round, I thought Spence responded pretty well, to be honest.
Could have been called a knockdown. Those ropes definitely stopped his momentum there.
You could say that. You absolutely could say that. But again, as I say, I just think even with those shots, even with some of the body shots that he was throwing against Spence, which he was visibly no liking, and he was covering up from, obviously, but it just wasn't enough for you guys to get any momentum going whatsoever. Another thing I picked up on was Spence's engine this time. Actually, it was absolutely fantastic. Picked it up at the right moments, I suppose. As I say, right after being hurt and wobbled in the 6th round, he's come back and just went right back to work. The uppercuts were fantastic. That was a shot that's obviously started bothering or closing the right eye of Ugas, who I read earlier on there that he competed there or got his rib broken and a broken nose during the fight, plus that badly swollen eye. So he's done his bit, but as I say, he just got worn down in the end and hurt a few times. The punch output, and by Spence was, as I say, tremendous. But I did think just before the stoppage, actually, which obviously it came as a doctor stoppage, I did think Ugas was possibly on the road out. I did think that if it kept going, and if it wasn't for the eye, I think Spence would have forced a stoppage is probably within the next round or two, definitely for me. So fair play to Spence. It says there was a wee bit kind of concern coming in. You know, is this car accident ever going to affect him or is going to catch up with him? Well, that's 2 fights now. And to be honest with you, he was okay against Garcia, but last night he was impressive against a very good fighter who, in his own right, you know, is a decent champion. So look, the other thing as well is he's come out after his fight and he's called out Terence Crawford. I didn't want to see any cock teasing with this, by the way. If he's serious about it, Crawford's tweeted out about it as well. Get this fight made. This is the fight we're all been waiting for. Outside of Fury Joshua or whatever it was, or maybe Fury Usyk, this is the fight that we want to see next. Crawford Spence. And based off last night, Spence is as good as ever, to be honest with you. As I say, he can get tagged. He's clearly came up and get wobbled and can get hurt. He's shown a bit of vulnerabilities in the past. He's been wobbled before. But so is Crawford. Gamboa touched him up a wee bit. But it's a fight we've got to see, man. It's a fight we've got to see.
I think Kavaliauskas buzzing him is more interesting than Gamboa, honestly, because I mean that's years ago.
Kavaliauskas is a big dude though for the weight.
Exactly.
Gamboa was a featherweight coming up, you know. So,
but I mean, Crawford at 135. I mean, number one, he dropped Gamboa multiple times. He took his O that night too. People forget that Gamboa was undefeated going into that fight, and I honestly don't think he was having an easy time making 135. I think he moved up. Was it right after that? So I don't. Yeah. I think the Kavaliauskas buzzing him is a lot more relevant to today than anything Gamboa did.
Yeah, possibly. But what I was just going to finish with actually was Spence on the inside. His inside work was absolutely fantastic. So as I say, if we can get that Crawford fight made, those two guys, as I say, you know, on the inside would just be. It's saying we're just begging for this fight. So get it made. Yeah, just get it made. You know, we're all begging for it, as I say. But again, Spence last night, I thought he was fantastic to a point. As I say, there was problems obviously as well along the way, but it's to be expected. But he was pretty much fantastic last night.
Well, and as he says, Terence Crawford, I'm coming for the motherfucking belt. We will see about that. Steve, so many good things to say about Errol Spence last night. Tremendous performance, and feel free to touch on that. But I felt that Ugas was going to lose this fight. I didn't even have any trepidations of worry that he was going to pull this off. I just didn't see it. In fact, I bet Errol Spence to knock him out at plus 240. Nice little score there. Picked him last week in the plus 240 to so 10. So I cashed $24 on a $10 bet. Yeah, slowly building up that fucking account again, Steve. Slowly. It's slowly. But to me, it seemed that he was there for the taking, and you always have to take into consideration that people might overrate a fighter when they take a formerly great fighter when they're past their prime, as Ugas did with Manny Pacquiao. But I saw a lot of flaws in Spence's footwork. He's good, but he steps in. He leaves himself open for a fair amount of counters. So I'm watching this, and I'm thinking about a Crawford fight. I'm seeing a lot of moments where Bud could definitely take advantage of Errol Spence.
Yeah, if I was one of the many boxing researchers around, I would go and watch Spence pre-car crash and post-car crash, because he does seem to be quite static and the body kind of goes backwards and forward in quite a stiff motion, but I haven't done the research yet to see whether that was a thing he was doing beforehand or just afterwards. But I love the fight. I thought it was intriguing. It was a high-paced battle, and it became one-sided pretty quickly after that uppercut landed. It damaged Ugas's eye. I was saying to you guys off air, it's similar to Billy Joe Saunders against Canelo, but Ugas hung in there for his licks. And I like Errol Spence's activity. He's always moving, circling, feinting, throwing the jab, keeping Ugas off balance and guessing. Spence, he controls rounds really well. He knows how to pace himself, win a round, and before you know it, he's chalked up 3 or 4 rounds in a row, and then you're chasing him. And he opted to stand, as you say there, and trade a bit more in the 3rd round. He was loading up to the body, got tagged with the right hand, which was Ugas's honey punch. And after round 4, I noticed in the corner, Derek James said, "You feel good? You're tired?" Which was slightly concerning to me. then he has been out a long time after the Garcia fight, and he was loading up and missing a lot too, which was probably indicative of his time out of the ring and a timing issue as well, getting that rust off. But I wonder if Spence decided to stand there, Matty, and slug because he wanted to put on a show for the fans, and maybe he didn't respect Ugas' punching power. He certainly respected it in the 6th round when he got bopped there against the ropes, no mouthpiece in, referee dilly-dallying a little bit. And then in the 7th, he hurt Ugas, and I noticed for the first time then, Ugas' face looked pretty bashed up here. It swelled, his right eye is closing fast. He's taken some fair digs, but he was weakening. And I think Lawrence Cole should have been tougher with Spence's head. I made notes about that as well. Multiple times he flew in with the head, he ducked down and he went straight in. Referee didn't really deal with that. But overall, Spence fought at a frenetic pace, which was good, showed great variety. He wasn't flawless by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the doctor injected a bit of compassion into the situation because I'm not entirely sure Ugas needed to be there after the 8th round, but he got the grace of being a champion and the ending was correct.
Yeah, it was the right time. I didn't know that Lawrence Cole was the ref when he was announced before the fight as the referee. As I looked up, I said, "Oh fuck," but it wasn't as bad as most Lawrence Cole fights. Spence does have a lot going for him, but I think you're right. There's something since that car crash, and we'll get back into this. But today we actually have a couple of guests coming on, which is weird. Either nobody wants to talk to us or everybody wants to talk to us. Feast or famine. Well, we're going to feast. Right now we're going to feast at the table of Smitto. Smitto, why don't you get into what you thought this week? And I know there's a couple of subjects you want to talk about, so the floor is yours.
Well, Matty, thanks for the introduction. I'm just here to bring some Conor Benn love. I just think it's easy to hate on him, and there's not many fighters now, that I go out my way to watch or to tune in live. There really isn't. Long gone are the days, the hardcore days of, booking half days at work to watch Yamanaka in Japan and watch Kudryashov against Durajola in Russia midway through the day. Them days are long gone in the Smith household. But Conor Benn, I've got to just give him some positivity. This is someone he's had a tricky hand dealt to him from day one, really. Obviously, the son of Nigel Benn, virtually no amateur experience, promoted by a man that's easy to hate, and rightly so most of the time. The start of his career was borderline embarrassing, the way he started. He made Campbell Hatton look good in the way Conor Benn started his career on massive undercards at Wembley Stadium, etc. But look where we are today with Conor Benn. He's vastly improved since those days that I've just mentioned, extremely raw, with no amateur experience. He's vastly improved since then. He's clearly very dedicated to his craft and never far out of shape. He's reasonably active and he talks a good game. He even talks Spanish at times when you want him to, Matty. So obviously we can pick holes in anyone's opponents or Conor Benn's opponents, anyone's, from Floyd Mayweather downwards. We spend hours picking holes in opponents, but he's been on a decent run. And there's been some degrees of step-ups in there. Formella, Vargas, Granados, Algieri, Van Heerden. 3 of the last 4 names have basically been iced, as Tony Bellew would say, like they've never been done before. So 100% yes, now he needs another step up in his next fight, but he's likeable. Not everyone is going to be a world champion. Far from it. Conor Benn might not be a world champion, but he's got, he's kind of got that exciting style. He's going in there and knocking people out. He's reasonably popular. He's probably growing in popularity. Is he the next big star of UK boxing like Eddie tells us he is? Probably not. Some will say that he only sold 6,000 tickets in an 18,000 arena last night. Fair comment. I don't really care about all that. He's likeable. He's got a good style. I'm tuning in to watch him. What more do you want?
That's what it is. Sell tickets, put on a performance. He's fun, right? And that's half. That's half the battle. And my God, it's a whole lot more than any number of other fighters are giving us these days.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, he's definitely got to step up. Eddie's mentioning these names about Garcias and Thurmans. They're not going to make their way over to England anytime soon when, most of them can stay over there and get some Uncle Al money. We can talk as much as we want about the Avanesian fight. That's a brilliant fight. I do not care about boxing politics or boxing finances. They should make that fight. They probably won't make it, but so be it. But from what they've been saying this week and the names they've been constantly saying from Broner downwards, they need to deliver next time. And if they don't, I'll be right at the front of the queue to criticise. If we end up with, Mickinson, I saw putting his name out there, I don't care for that fight. If we end up with something crap, then I'll call it out. But until then, I think let's just let's not hate on Conor Benn. You don't have to like him, but I don't think we should be hating on him.
No, I think he's definitely earning his way, and he's proven that he's going to be more than many other second generation folks that came up. Your Ronald Hearns, et cetera of the world. And Smith, I think you said that you before you bounced, you also wanted to touch on Saturday's fight, Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte. That's a hard fight to find betting value on. What are you thinking?
Oh, I hate Dillian Whyte, so I'm gone from positive to negative here. I just think Tyson Fury is going to make him look ridiculous. Like you say, the odds are 1-6 Fury, and Dillian Whyte's around 4-1, maybe a little bit shorter than that. There's not going to be too much detail from me, but in Dillian Whyte, we're talking about a man who's been life and death with. You need two hands to count the amount of people that have had Dillian Whyte either down or in trouble. I think he's acted like well, I'm not going to swear, but he's not acted the way I would have acted across a number of years. Drugs test, thinking that he deserves a shot at Deontay Wilder, who got absolutely iced by Povetkin in a euphoric moment in the Smith household. And I hope that Tyson Fury just completely embarrasses him next week. And I will exit stage left, Matty, because we've got a guest on now that's going to provide a lot more insight than myself.
Hey, we always appreciate you coming on, sir, and you take care of yourself, all right?
Thank you. Enjoy.
You got it.
Cheers, man.
And I'll hand it over to Steve Wellings to take care of this next part here. We're very happy to have Bryn Butler with us. Steve, why don't you take it away?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Matty. Always delighted to have Bryn on with us on this glorious Sunday evening. How are you doing, Bryn? Long time no speak.
Yeah, long time. Doing well. How's everybody?
Not too bad. I think the last time we were talking to you, Bryn, it was on the Patreon, talking about the career of Roy Jones Jr. ahead of his fight with Mike Tyson. Do you remember that escapade?
Yeah, that went well, didn't it?
Yeah, well, Roy just about managed to last the 5 rounds anyway on 2 legs, so we're thankful for that.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like a farce, but I was just totally shocked that people felt as though they got their money's worth for it. It was just like they were playing tag out there. It was just surreal.
Yeah, it was a shame to see the great Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson going at it, but the matter's closer to home for you. Last night, one of the current professional standard bearers of Cuban boxing, Yordenis Ugas, lost to Errol Spence. We're just talking about it there now. Before you joined us, it was quite the event. Did you manage to catch any of it?
I did. I came home last night at 3 a.m. biking home from Brooklyn. So, yeah, I watched the whole thing, and frustrating, really frustrating to see somebody with that much ability that I thought Ugas demonstrated and just not throwing, just unwilling to throw, unwilling to trade. But when he did, I mean, the accuracy, I mean, I think he hurt Spence at one point, but he backed away when he had that moment to take advantage, which, I mean, he was dominated in the fight, but he wasn't dominated in terms of skill level. It just seemed unwilling to really competitively engage, which was just very frustrating.
And I believe myself that it turned on the point around the 7th or 8th round when Errol landed that uppercut and the eyes suddenly started swelling over. Ugas, he stuck in there, took his lumps, but he really was feeling sorry for himself. And I think the doctor did him a mercy in the end.
Absolutely. I mean, I would be shocked if his orbital bone wasn't crushed in that fight. You could see the way he was taking some of those uppercuts from Spence. And I'm not trying to take anything away from what Spence demonstrated. I thought he looked great. I mean, standing right in front of him, the volume of punches that were there. But I did feel a bit like the stock of Spence in terms of him fighting Crawford next went down. I think I was really on the fence about who would win that fight. Now I heavily favor Crawford after seeing what Ugas was able to do. Because I think if Spence has any determination to fight this way against Crawford, I think he's going to get his head taken off.
That's an interesting point I was going to bring to you. Do you think he would be a little bit more conservative? I seem to believe last night that Ugas, obviously top world level operator, maybe Spence didn't respect his power after the first couple of rounds and he wouldn't be as brash going in on Crawford, you would imagine.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think some of those body shots were definitely troubling Spence, but there just wasn't enough volume of punches. Ugas was just standing in the pocket and not throwing. And you can't be a punching bag for somebody like Spence, who has endless energy, has great power and great accuracy. I don't know what the game plan was for Ugas, and I certainly don't know why he didn't change it at some point, because it was just like, what is the plan here? Like early on, I thought he did well in the first round. I gave him the first round, but after that, it was just really unclear to me, like, why wasn't the corner steering him to do something other than what he was doing, where he was just being routed in terms of punch output? Because it seemed like when he threw, he could land. He had accuracy, he had length, the body attack. Like when he opened up a little bit was really annoying Spence. But you can't stand in there with somebody as world-class as Spence and not expect one of those punches to land and really cause you trouble. And clearly one of those uppercuts did bad damage to his eye. And it was just unclear to me why he was even staying in there or why his corner permitted him to keep going, because it just didn't seem like he was willing to fight to win. He was just fighting to survive.
And it was all the stranger, I think, given the strategy. The fact that he had Ismail Salas in the corner, great trainer, real good record against Southpaws as well. I was surprised to see that. Really strange. Just really strange. And it's just kind of, I mean, especially after the Gamboa, just annihilation. There's just something about Cuban fighters where you just see their potential and capability, and then their lack of determination to fight up to their potential in the professional game is just a real constant sort of theme with so many of them. And with Ugas, like I just found who I was watching it with, who himself is a manager of many world champions, were just getting so pissed off because it was clear he had the ability to make it much more competitive than it was, but just a total lack of willingness. Yeah, for every great achieving professional Cuban, there's been a Luis Garcia or an Errol Solis floating about, which leaves us on to the meat of our conversation, professional boxing. Returning to Cuba since 1962, Mr. Castro himself banned it. I visited back in 2002, I think it was. Proud people. Tommy! Had a great time, great 2 weeks. Bryn's been there a lot longer than me. What were your first, did you have any indication, first of all, Bryn, that it was coming, or did it come out the blue for you? What are your thoughts about this move? It had to come. I mean, it's been going on with musicians for a long time, back since Buena Vista Social Club really ignited globally a huge amount of interest in Cuban music. Those musicians were basically given the same deal, that they could tour around the world and keep way more of their money than any other of the Cubans who were kind of being doled out as coaches. Like many Cuban boxing coaches were sent around the world to work with other nations on their national boxing teams and international boxing teams and such. And everything I've been hearing from Cuba, I was there when Obama visited and the Rolling Stones played to 400,000 people at a free concert. And then the following year to do another story. It seemed like where Obama was going, people were massively investing in real estate. And then Trump came in, totally calcified and intensified the embargo against them. And oddly, Joe Biden, instead of going the direction of Obama, went even firmer with what Trump was doing in terms of shutting them out. This embargo has been rejected by every nation on earth as illegal, except for Israel and the United States. So it was just, for everything I'm hearing from Cuba, from regular people, is it's never been worse. And these hardships, everybody from about my age, 42 down, especially the young people, are desperate to get out. So I think there was no other resort for the government, really, with just the brawn drain that they've lost with baseball. I mean, they've just been gutted there. And in boxing rings, I mean, going back with Casamayor being the first gold medalist to leave, and then a lot of these guys coming over being much older and being, Gamboa was very successful initially. Rigondeaux was very successful. So I think there was a real sense, how can we possibly retain the talent that we have left? So I don't think it was sort of the agency of the Cuban government. It was just the last resort. There's just nothing else we have to hold on by the fingernails with these great athletes that Cuba has always produced. Just picking up on that point you made there about retaining the talent, this will make life easier for a multitude of current and future pro boxers from the island. Do you see a Cuban boxing promotional power base starting up there, or will there not be those kind of funds, and that the main fighters will still have to travel abroad? I mean, all the boxers are still going to the same people in Florida. I mean, so far. So I'm curious to see that kind of hegemony
that they've had. I mean, Luis de Cubas has just gotten so many of them. They all go to the same place. So the question is, are they going to the same place because of the results? That doesn't seem to make sense because the results of most of them have not been great. So it seems to suggest that they can't go anywhere else. So I'm very curious about, as you say, if there's going to be kind of an infrastructure and scaffolding to allow these guys to have more options. Certainly not having to be jumping onto a smuggler's boat is a very positive thing that in all the writing that I've done about this in books and articles is always to criticize both countries for incentivizing this very lucrative, almost sort of like modern slave trade with these athletes. Cuban athletes are the most expensive human cargo on earth. So I'm really pleased to see that there's some safety for these people and also the ability to not leave behind their family. This sort of Cuban Sophie's choice is very positive. So I guess it's just how much money does the government have to invest in this sports machine that has just been churning out so much talent on baseball diamonds and boxing gyms. It doesn't seem like they're producing the same kind of talent and that they have the same kind of funds to allocate to support them as they used to, and to also find talent all over the island. Most of the great boxers in Cuba have come from the East. They're not coming from Havana. They're not coming from urban environments. So it's a lot of just wait and see. And the other curious thing is if these boxers can keep 80% of their money, which is the current deal the government has agreed to, how does that work in Cuban society where if you're a lawyer or a brain surgeon, you're making $25 a month? Like, how are you going to feel to be making $25 a month as a brain surgeon when a boxer is making $800,000 from $1 million contract to take a fight? I just don't see how that's sustainable.
Especially when you're going to need more brain surgeons from people getting punched in the head.
There you go. There you go. Exactly.
Obviously, there's a lot of time passed, and this couldn't have happened when Fidel himself was alive. But do you look back, or could one look back at the likes of Teofilo Stevenson, Felix Savon, and have an air of what might have been?
I think you have to. I mean, it's a lot of guesswork. There's always been an enormous amount of prejudice against Cuban fighters by American journalists. Dan Rafael will praise to the high mountains a Floyd Mayweather fight against Pacquiao, and then Rigondeaux, what he does against Donaire, which I think you could argue was a bigger feat, a bigger accomplishment. And it's disgusting, and he's a cure for narcolepsy and that sort of thing. It just seems aesthetically like a complete double standard. And Cubans have never had a fan base coming to the U.S., unlike Mexican fighters, unlike Puerto Rican fighters. Florida does not support their own until, like, once they get there, there's just no fan base. Even with baseball, you had the Florida Marlins, not big ticket sellers, despite a lot of their success. And the same is true with these boxers. They don't have a fan base. We celebrate Tito Trinidad for sort of keeping it real by not learning English. Every Cuban boxer who doesn't learn English is criticized for it as undermining their marketability. So again, there's just a lot of double standards against them. But in terms of how good they might have been, George Foreman told me when I interviewed him, Teofilo Stevenson, in his mind, was the greatest heavyweight he ever saw. Now, I must say, I agree with that sentiment, but you don't hear much of that. You don't hear it amplified. I think they're always criticized in terms of that it's grown men in the amateur ranks, grown men Cubans beating kids of other countries. Totally untrue, in the sense that all of the great Cuban champions won their first medal the same time everybody else wins their gold medal, 18, 19, 20 years old. So they were just as dominant at the beginning as they were at the end. So that brings up an interesting question in terms of if Rigondeaux had come over at 19, if Gamboa was 19 getting started as a professional, Stevenson beat Terrell Biggs, who had beaten Mike Tyson, I think, in 83 or 84. Mm-hmm. And Stevenson beat him in 84 at like a world championship. So Stevenson, I think, from 72 to 84 was a modern heavyweight. I mean, he was almost a Lennox Lewis-sized fighter, 6'5", 240, one of the best right hands I think the heavyweight division's ever seen. Felix Sabone absolutely annihilated Shannon Briggs, knocked out David Tua in less than half a round. Tua was indestructible as a heavyweight.
He went 12 with Ibeabuchi. I mean, right. the guy had a beard.
He did. And I mean, so I don't, who knows what they might have done? Styles makes fights. I fully subscribe to that idea. But I mean, you're telling me Felix Sabone would have been a dominating menace in the heavyweight division? I mean, again, a guy who won his first medal, I think, 92, and then won his last one in 2000. Solis was a hell of a fighter as an amateur. He beat Sabone twice, I think 2 out of 3 times. And then they forced him to step aside so that Sabone had a chance to win his own 3rd gold medal. But Solis blew up and became fat, essentially lost his ability at McDonald's.
Waste of talent.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it, and they definitely deserve blame for that. And then on the other hand, maybe a little bit of compassion about having to leave behind a family and never being able to go home again deserves some degree of being part of the calculus of how we evaluate them. So I think the Cubans would have done extremely well as professionals, and I think Rigondeaux with Donaire, it's important to remember he was a 3-1 underdog against ESPN's Fighter of the Year, and he absolutely annihilated him. I mean, in the sense of dominating him, and took a guy who was just blowing away people, who was terrified to open up against them because he knew what would happen. He'd get knocked out. So I think after what's happened with Donaire subsequently, how good he's looked in a lot of fights, the stock of what that fight meant should have risen Rigondeaux's claim maybe to get into the Hall of Fame, arguably, given some of the circumstances that were required for him to join as a pro. But I think the what-if question will always linger with a lot of these great Cuban fighters. My trainer, Hector Vinent, was a 2-time Olympic champion who beat a lot of world champions as amateurs, knocked out many of them, had a very professional style. But he told me, how do I leave behind my wife and 5 kids? I can't do it. No matter how much money they're offering me, America is a beautiful woman staring at me from across the street, and I just have to ignore her and be willing to live in memories of what my boxing career was. So I saw this very up close, how tormented these athletes were if they stayed. And I also saw how tormented they were if they left behind a family in order to realize their potential and make the kind of money commensurate with their market value. So it's been really tough.
Can I just ask, you touched on a little bit with Solis blowing up, and I mean, there's other things with other Cuban fighters on those lines. Do you think that there's almost a difficulty for them to find discipline in a free society, and it's a very odd transition in that sense because you have choice? You can choose not to train, and it's not going against the national orders.
Well, and you're also kind of leaving one system where you're imprisoned in the body politic of communism, and then you're kind of wrapped in the chains of the most ruthless distillation of unfettered capitalism, pro boxing. No barrier to entry. Who are these people looking after them? Lots of them are bail bondsmen or criminals. Who has sponsored them to jump into a smuggler's boat and go through Mexico to come into the U.S.? Well, how much of those salaries or purses that they're making do they get to keep? What are the threats against their family back home if they don't do what they're told? I mean, how do they psychically deal with that trauma and PTSD? I mean, Rigondeaux has fought hundreds of men and said by far the most traumatic event of his life was just this brief time he spent in a smuggler's boat trying to get to Mexico. So I don't think it's just, freedom and politicizing everything about them. They're all called defectors. And yet all of these guys just said, we want to make the money we do in the US and we want to go home. We don't want to be politicized any more than Manny Pacquiao is a defector from the Philippines or any Mexican fighter is a defector from Mexico. We just want economic opportunity, and we happen to be born in a place where we weren't permitted to do this. So don't politicize us in Cuba and don't politicize us in the United States, that it's all about freedom. And I know some of them, Ugas is wearing all the stuff on his trunks. He definitely is leaning into the politicization, but these are guys that have had everything looked after for them. They have no financial literacy. They've never had a bank account before. They've never walked into a supermarket that has 2 different varieties of anything. Ration cards and stuff. That's a big deal. I mean, there are famous stories of baseball players getting multi-million-dollar checks and not knowing what to do with the check. So it ends up getting laundered and that kind of thing. Or fainting when they walk into a supermarket and there's 500 kinds of every product. They just never seen anything like this. But
So boxers get treated almost like in the same way that people like that are traded in underground, like the underground sex trade, are treated sometimes. It's a really dark path there, it sounds like, where they could end up doing business with very terrible people.
I don't think it's just that they could. They almost always do. They have no choice. I mean, I put it in the book back when I was writing about it 10 years ago. The real choice that these guys have is not communism or freedom. It's Fidel Castro or Don King, because both of these guys are emblems for their respective systems, right? So I think that's what the Cubans are looking at, is sort of how do I break free and have any degree of independence? I mean, in baseball, which is much more lucrative in terms of your average athlete that's coming over, Yasiel Puig is held hostage in Isla Mujeres off the coast of Cancun with a machete held over him, threatening to hack off his arm if he's not paying a huge chunk, an undisclosed chunk of the salary he signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So this is the sort of, if you look under the hood of what these guys are dealing with, this is the reality. It's not just they're lazy. Oh, freedom is just so overwhelming, they can't deal with it. It's all that comes with what's permitted in the U.S. with the people that are dealing with them directly. And, you know, in South Florida, you have a number of people that shot down airplanes, you know, Cuban airliners, or bombed hotels, and were never prosecuted because Florida was determining the vote in 2 elections. So the Cuban American vote determined it. So they were very cognizant of the power of that vote. There was no more important area for determining the national election, strangely and ironically enough, than the Cuban American vote up until very recently. They're dying off now, and the younger generation is not nearly as politicized in the same way. It's not monolithic anymore, but it certainly used to be. And even Joe Biden's policy with Cuba clearly is a result of trying to pander to the Cuban American vote. So I think these athletes were just always caught back in Cuba and then caught in a completely unforeseen net once they got to the U.S. And it was very, very hard for them to adapt to these circumstances that don't get as much publicity. You know, it's easier to say, oh, it's freedom and they're lazy and they've been brainwashed forever back in Cuba. But I mean, every Cuban athlete that I interviewed over there, beyond being afraid of being reprimanded by the government for any kind of conversation about politics, was pretty literate about what the situation was on both sides of the 90 miles. It's just they knew they couldn't really talk about it without getting into trouble.
So do you think that basically Cuba is going to have an easier go with things when the Cold War generation is gone and out of power? Because it seems that'd be the one clearer thing that Biden and Trump have in common. Common is they're both about 80 years old. Is it just almost embedded Cold War fears that these people cannot get over that's leaving Cuba behind?
Absolutely. You know, I think what the circumstances were in Cuba before the revolution, you know, four out of 5 of the revolutionaries that took over that island and stood up to the United States for 60 years were illiterate. So that's important that when you think about almost all these athletes are Afro-Cubans, that the biggest beneficiary of the revolution were these impoverished Afro-Cubans, for the most part, rural Cubans. And so a lot of these athletes, when they left, had a family member who knew what the circumstances were before, that the U.S. financially supported, had no issue with a puppet government or creating their constitution or annexing Gitmo so they could have a torture camp while lecturing Cuba about humanitarian issues. So it's all really complex. And yet at the same time, they get over to the U.S. Yeah, like they want a mansion and they want a hot tub and oh my God, my girlfriend can get breast implants and I just need to have a couple fights to pay for it. Like, I mean, a lot of that was very appealing. But then
I hear you.
Yeah, and then, well, I mean, I'm just telling you like what they've told me. And then on the other hand, they're just sort of like, but I don't want to live here because here I need to have walls. Here I need to be afraid of my neighbor. Like here, there are all kinds of problems that don't exist in Cuba. I've never had to pay for medical bills. I'm in a country where the number one reason why people go bankrupt is a medical emergency, which doesn't exist in any other first world country. I don't know if I can pay for my kids' college tuition. Boxing is not giving me any kind of pension plan or health care. All of that was looked after in Cuba. We hear about all the things they don't have. We don't hear about the things that they do have. They very often say, like, I miss boxing in front of Cubans because it was free for everybody to go. It's not like Pacquiao Mayweather where it's $375,000 for a seat to watch. So there's just like a lot of nuance and complexity to it that I think they've had to deal with their whole lives, whether they're there or whether they come over here. And don't get me wrong, they want the money. They want to improve their lives and to offer their kids a better life and that kind of thing. But you also have to understand when we talk about them being defectors, they are desperate to be a part of their identity. I mean, these are people, I've never met people with more of a profound connection to loving what it is to be Cuban. It just doesn't seem to matter if they leave or they stay, retaining that love, which I find fascinating because I ask so many of them, what exactly is the Cuba you're fighting for if you've quote unquote defected? Or Rigondeaux having Fidel Castro call you a traitor, how can you still say you're fighting for Cuba? Like, what is it? And it was never a question I got a very satisfying answer about. So I guess it's just still too complicated and too much of an open wound to really investigate for a lot of these guys.
Yeah. Time will tell. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I know Andy has something to add before I bring him in. Just to remind everybody listening at home that we have Bryn Butler on the call, boxing journalist, all-round Cuban boxing expert. Just before I bring Andy in there, Bryn, you mentioned about Castro's Traitor, the subject of your excellent 2014 book, which I've read many moons ago. Rigondo. What about his demise, the loss to Casemiro, a shock defeat in Dubai? What have you made of his recent activities, old Rigondo?
Well, I mean, the last thing is him making some black beans in a pressure cooker and blowing his head off. And I contacted Ronnie Shields very recently to say everything I've read says 80% loss of vision due to retinal damage in both eyes. And Ronnie Shields said he's made a miraculous recovery, but I mean, yeah, he looks shot. I hate to say it, but he still has some of the skills, but I mean, Jesus, 41 years old at this point. Just kind of like watching Gamboa. I mean, I saw Gamboa early on when he fought on the East Coast, and I mean, he was scintillating the talent he had, even as in his late 20s. And to see him now, where he's been, I think they said he'd been knocked down 18 times.
He's up to 20 to the end of that fight.
Even when he was in Germany as well, he looked amazing, but he always liked to knock down back then as well, didn't he?
Yeah, but he always bounced up. Like, I mean, he's tough as nails, but you're just thinking, Jesus, if I had to pick a candidate for CTE by the time they hit 45 years old, I think Gamboa is my number one prospect. Like this, the brain is not meant to be concussed that many times in fights. And God knows what's happened to him in training, because like he fights one way, and you're right, it's very reckless. He just no longer has this tremendous hand speed and, the kind of athleticism that he used to have that blew people away. Rigondeaux was just so much more careful, a fighter, which obviously so many people have criticized him for, but certainly the ability is there. I just don't think he's just way too far up there in age, fighting at 118 pounds. So I wish both these guys would walk away. I hope they have enough financial security to do so, but do they? It's boxing. The rule is that none of these guys can ever afford to walk away. How many happy endings are there with George Foreman or Muhammad Ali being able to license his name? Even a Joe Frazier was sleeping in his gym. And when I was a kid, he came to Vancouver probably for $3,000 or something. And he wasn't really there. He was just the body of this legend. So it's tough. And, you hate to think where a Gamboa is going to end up very soon in terms of like the medical needs he's going to require from all of those concussions. I mean, I just don't understand how he's allowed to fight anymore. Like based on just how he looked in that last fight and several of the others. I mean, Crawford just took his head off too, not long ago. And maybe Rigondeaux is going to be the same way. We're going to have to see somebody just, remove him from having the choice to stay in there. And I just hate to see it, because at his best, he was just such an extraordinary next level fighter. I don't think most journalists saw it. I definitely know every great boxer saw it. When I spent some time with Roy Jones Jr. profiling him, or Andre Ward, the first person they wanted to talk about was Rigondeaux, and they were like little kids about just how exceptional his talent was, whereas journalists were always condescending about him. So I always found that a fascinating feature about him in particular.
Yeah, Bryn's right there, everybody, especially about Joe Frazier. I remember seeing him come to Belfast about a year or two before he died, and he was terrible. He couldn't string a sentence together, and he was on a stick, and he really did look bad. I have one more talking point left. Not going to keep you much longer, Bryn. Before that, Andy Patterson, the main man, the rock of the Asylum, who organised this interview, is going to jump in with something. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, just to kind of obviously a wee update on the Cuban Pro events. It seems to be taking head pretty quick. It's going to be the first event, I believe, is going to be next month. The boxing events meant to be getting held in in Mexico, I believe. And I'm just trying to find his name actually. It's going to be aired on ESPN Knockout. And Alberto Puig, he's the president of the Cuban Boxing Federation, who's going to be working with Gold Ring Promotions in order to do these events. They're planning on doing something like 4 or 6 events over the course of this year, and they will be involved in mostly 6-rounders, I think. But what I found interesting was some of the names that were mentioned actually as well. So it seems to be those that are more experienced pros, more experienced amateurs will be turning pro. So they've actually mentioned names like Laszlo Alvarez, Andy Cruz Gomez, Ronnie Iglesias, Julio Cesar La Cruz, who I'm not a big fan of, to be honest with you, and Arlen Lopez. So these are multiple gold medalists at Worlds, Olympic Games, etc. So I just thought I'd just throw in a wee bit of information there as to what's coming out. As I says, the first event seems to be kind of getting planned for next May, hopefully. Next month, hopefully.
Yeah, and I mean, let me ask you guys. I mean, who the hell is this group that is behind it? I've never heard of them before, and like I talked to a number of people in boxing. I'm like, you heard of these guys? Like, who's behind this? It's just such like a sort of black box.
There's a name called Gerard Saldivia, a president of the Golden Ring Promotions. Don't know who he is. I haven't had a chance to look at him or whatever.
Andy, rightly, he who shall be named, probably going to appear at some point, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, don't say it, mate. DK. Mr. DK himself. Yeah. I tell you what, Cuba's the only place he can actually go to these days, actually.
No, it's funny. I mean, they're gonna. I mean, from what I read, they operate primarily in Aguas Calientes, and I've heard Aguas Calientes is like a place where some of the top bullfighters, Spanish bullfighters, fight. But I mean, it's a weird one. As I say, it's just the total black box, and
they operate in hot water. You said it all. Aguas Calientes.
Well, allegedly they've been there since last summer. Actually, some of these. Well, obviously the Olympics was last summer, but then you had the World Championships directly after it in Serbia. So they've been there ever since the World Championships, I believe, in Mexico, training for it. So it's something that's obviously been brewing for quite a fair bit of time. Because according to is it Salvador Rodriguez, who works for ESPN Deporte, he said it's something like it's been going on or plans have been getting made for almost the best part of 3 years.
I mean, maybe our friend DK and El Chapo have partnered up to form their make for all this. It is boxing,
Well, I suppose
El Chapo said he wouldn't work with him.
Well, I suppose humans are easier to traffic than actually like cocaine, for example.
Only in Sinaloa.
Exactly. Yeah, let's diversify our portfolio to include Cuban boxers from all the other stuff. I don't know. It sounds really weird. I just there's no Cuban boxer that has ever sold tickets that exists. I mean, like watching the Ugas fight where they're trying to, like, the cameramen are desperate. It was like, where's Waldo? Where's the Cuban flag? Where can we find one to pretend as if he's got a fan base? Because like when they mentioned his name, there was no sound, right? Like it was just total crickets. So I still don't know, despite how good these guys are, you need somebody kind of like a Gamboa at the beginning of his career who's really going to excite people and attract them, because as sort of mysterious Cuban boxers that we only see as amateurs, it's just never been a successful selling point in the US. So I don't know if they can kind of galvanize interest in Florida with like a huge Cuban American base that's there, which has never worked in the past ever. I remember Bob Arum told me Rigondeaux may have won 2 Olympic gold medals, but I don't think he could sell out the first row of a dance hall in Miami. And I don't know that it's ever gotten better than that. And it's terrible because, I mean, I think these guys expect when they come over, you know, they're very important figures in Cuba. They just wear a tracksuit and everywhere they go, it's like cheers. People are yelling their name. And they come to the U.S. and nobody has any idea who they are. And certainly nobody wants to pay to watch them fight. So it's, yeah.
Certainly, obviously, I mean, I don't know how they would do ticket-wise in Mexico or where they're going to be fighting in Mexico or even in Miami, for example. But you've trained there, Brendan. Obviously, I've done a bit of reading as well, and I've seen the facilities, and Steve's been there. So the gyms are pretty archaic. They're using tires for body, you know, for heavy bags, etc. Will the government really, or will anybody be investing in the Cuban infrastructure or boxing infrastructure to try and maybe even get a, like, for example, Luna Park in Buenos Aires, where the Argentinians, you know, have all their big fights, etc. Will they have something more, you know, in Havana, for example, where they could have a pro boxing event that would be suitable for, you know, people attending, for example, you know, because obviously, you know, from what I read from, you know, for yourself, from what I've heard from you, you know, a lot of these events in the past in Cuba have been free, you know, free access to the people to come in and basically, you know, free admission, really, especially when the WSB were over there fighting.
Yeah, I watched that during Obama's visit. They had, I think it was Ukraine and Cuba. And Cuba won, I think, every single fight that they had. But I mean, it was pretty spectacular watching the Rolling Stones play there. The Rolling Stones looked shy. Like, they really looked like they were kind of drunk on the crowd. They couldn't believe that they were playing in Havana. Mick Jagger only spoke Spanish on stage, which the Cubans couldn't have been more appreciative of. And I just thought, Jesus, if you can assemble 400,000 people showing up, and I mean from the whole country, people were making pilgrimages into Havana to this park to watch the Stones. And I know they did like a DVD or, you know, that you can stream a documentary about the concert. I've not seen it, but I mean, I was at the concert. I just thought, couldn't you do this with boxing? Because every major event that's in Havana, everybody goes to. I mean, not only is it free, but everybody wants to be a part of these events. Like, it's sort of like the US used to be when you just had 3 channels on TV. Everybody was watching the same things. That's still true in Cuba with cultural events. So I think the idea of having an international community drop in on the Cuban community watching some huge boxing matches would be spectacular. I mean, you look at even just the photographs of when Jack Johnson fought there. You know, there's so many venues that they could set up that I think would be so positive, both for the country and for people to see it and get some exposure for themselves rather than how the media depicts it over there. I would love to see it. I think you could have massive audiences.
Bryn, just to close out, it's been fantastic having you on as always, but a slight tangent just to finish off with. A mutual friend of ours, Gary Hyde, his son Tommy, was due to turn pro in Cork last month. Tommy's been following his dad around since he was knee-high, a regular feature of your book, of course. It makes me feel old to see him there as a light heavyweight. Took me back to the days of Rigo versus Willie Casey in Dublin.
Well, Tommy Hyde was, I mean, the two of them were such characters, Gary and his son. And I met his son, I think he was 10 at the time.
Followed Gary everywhere, didn't he, Tommy?
Everywhere. And he was an encyclopedia of boxing. I mean, they had a bunch of boxers in their family, if I recall. I think he was named after a Tommy Hyde, who was an uncle of Gary. But he was such a smart kid when it came to boxing. He was encyclopedic. And Gary reached out to me a little while ago because Tommy was going to have a fight on the East Coast, I think in Massachusetts, if I remember correctly. He wanted me to film something, like film a little promo about it, and I wasn't able to. But from what I hear, Tommy has had a very promising amateur career. He was as obsessed as any person I've ever met with boxing as he was a little kid, and it seems like he's developed really nicely. And Gary is a complete fanatic about boxing, so I will certainly watch it. I mean, it's weird because this kid, I remember meeting him at the Wild Card, I guess 2010, and when he expressed like his interest in boxing, and he knew so much about Cuban boxing, which very few people do outside of the island. I just thought, boy, like, I wonder if this kid is going to get the bug to actually not just become a manager like his dad, but actually participate. So I'm curious. I'm curious what happens with him. But as I understood it, that fight was delayed because they found something in an MRI. There was some kind of like brain issue or something.
Some kind of issue. I'm not sure exactly, but it has been rescheduled to May the 14th, I think. So hopefully that's been cleared up. But you are right. There was some kind of complication.
Yeah. So I hope he's okay. He was all my dealings with him. He was a very nice kid, and Gary totally adores him. I mean, part of it's weird for me. Like, I don't have a son, but it would be really frightening for me to have a kid be as obsessed with boxing as Tommy was and have to watch them. I mean, I don't think I'd be able to handle watching my kid take punches or get knocked down. But both of these guys had a boxing bug like very few people I've ever met.
Absolutely. Good luck to Tommy Hyde going forward. Bryn, where can people catch up with you if they want to follow your work or maybe social media things?
Twitter is about the only place I am on social media, it's under Brinicio, Brinicio, and that's where I just post stories. That's about all I do, or cat pictures. That's about it.
Absolute legend. Always good to have you on, Bryn. Take care of yourself now.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Bryn.
Thank you. That was a blast. I enjoyed the heck out of that.
That was fantastic. Quick plug for his book, Matty. I was just going to say, 2014, Cuban boxer's journey. Guillermo Rigondo from Castro's traitor to American champion. I'll tell you something as well before Andy comes in. I flew from Havana to Holguin City when I was there. Tropicana Airwaves. I've never been as frightened in my whole life. It was an old Russian Cold War plane. My God. My life flashed before me in front of my eyes. I didn't think I was going to be here with you today.
That's a really good book, and also just I know Matty was kind of obviously in the politics side of it and that, but if you want to Google Heroes for Sale, it's a 2014 extract, I believe, of Bryn's book, and at the end of the article, there's a 15-minute segment from his documentary Split Decision, where you actually see him interviewing Teofilo Stevenson. Muhammad Ali visiting Stevenson in Havana, and obviously ultimately his death. I think Bryn was actually at Stevenson's funeral, managed to film parts of it before he was persona non grata. So it's really interesting. Like,
didn't he basically die in a leaky shack smoking 2 packs a day,
drinking vodka and that as well? He had a big, massive one of those big, I don't know if it was a Cadillac, what type of car it was. It was one of those old-fashioned ones, but he got off the state after he won his last gold medal, and he had no money for petrol for it, so he just sat in the driveway rusting away.
Son of a bitch. That's rough. And, as we already discussed, it's a topic with a lot of layers, and we will, no need to tread over that again. We treaded a long time. That was a great discussion, though.
We did a good job there. Fair play to Bryn.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't, not going to go in the card in order here. But Andy, we saw a heck of a good fight with Stanionis taking a split decision over Ruslan Butaev. I thought that they might have been a little bit charitable with that card for Butaev. But Stanionis, man, when he lands, you hear it. That jab of his is something else. But we nailed it this week on the panel. We got both of them right as far as the victor. But only one of us got the method right on both of those. Who was it?
Yeah, it was a really interesting fight, mate. I thought it delivered anyway. I thought it was fight of the card, regardless of Spence looking good as what he did. But this was highly tough, competitive fight. It was tremendous. You say that jab of Stanionis is just that's world class. I know someone put the question to Eddie last night about potentially fighting the winner of this fight. Can you imagine against fighting Conor Benn? Can you imagine?
Nobody's heard of him, mate.
Exactly. Can you imagine Stanionis' jab against Conor Benn right now? By the way, he'd beat him off the jab alone. That's how fucking good it is. Butaev played his part. I did think early half of the fight anyway. He did his part. He was getting a wee bit frustrated probably kind of latter half, as he was really having problems trying to kind of get Stanionis kind of not so much, probably kind of like really hurt him and get him to back off, because whenever Butaev actually landed something good and he was really working well to the body, Stanionis always seemed to respond to him. So it was like, oh right, okay, so he's no hurting him, he's coming back with something else. So I just think Butaev ultimately got a wee bit frustrated as the fight kind of wore on. I know Steve's got a wee bit of an issue with the referee, which I'll leave it to him to bring it up. But to me, at least, it was everything and more as to what I expected. It was just a savage, proper fight. You could tell we think as well as after looking at both fighters that Butaev was the one that won it because he didn't really have much of a blemish on his face. Whereas you looked at Stanionis, he's got blood coming out his nose, his right eyes begin to grotesquely swell up. But it was just multiple combinations and responses from each other. Stanionis would rip the body, he'd get back on the jab. Whenever he had to reset, the jab was absolutely fantastic. And I love the way he stands in the pocket and just puts that wee kind of half step back, gives himself proper punching room. The only thing that really bothers me about him really is his lack of elite power. Because if he had proper elite power, I don't think Butaev would have been anywhere near as kind of like pressing it as much as to what he did. But that said, the jab alone was giving Butaev severe problems. He was getting, every time he kind of stepped in, he was getting caught with it. But as I say, his body work was absolutely tremendous as well. Tried to kind of obviously mix it up a wee bit. Ultimately, it didn't really get Stanionis out of his groove in any way, shape, or form. Who I did notice had the Ukrainian flag on his trunks. Maybe it was a wee bit of baiting going on there.
Yeah, I think so.
They were
staring
at each other in the fight.
Yeah, especially afterwards, they were kind of like after the fight, Butaev kind of walks away. I think it did kind of like touch gloves or whatever, but there was no really, love lost basically. So as I say, Stanionis was fantastic. I thought they won the fight pretty clearly. I had it like something like 115 or maybe 116 type scorecard. I was shitting it when I heard the split decision coming. I was like, really? I thought Butaev, he definitely played his part, but I thought ultimately in the end, Stanionis was ultimately more than what he won. I just felt that when
he
it
landed
came
the cleaner
harder shots, better quality work, and he responded each time to Butaev's shots as well. And that to me showed probably that he was a winner. But I was a wee bit kind of panicky when I seen the split decision come in. But no, Stanionis won the fight for me. I don't know about his future prospects just now, but can he wait for his next fight, to be honest with you? Absolute tremendous fighter. And Butaev, as I say, has played his part, and he'll get another opportunity as well, without doubt, because both those guys are going to be a hard night's work for anybody. Just talking about Conor Benn fighting for world championships this year. And that. I mean, you've got to go through guys like Butaev and Stanionis, guys who've probably like took themselves to the well.
You're gonna have to be a tough son of a bitch to survive with Butaev, dude.
Yep, they have shaved probably a couple of years off at each other's careers there last night as well. And you're talking about Ben, who's like still fighting up washed up fighters and guys who've not fought in 2 years, and then you see that there last night. Nah, young Ben needs to kind of keep back for the guys and just keep fighting these washed up fighters just now, because he doesn't hang with either of those guys, either of them.
It was an interesting fight. It was reasonably competitive, but I thought it was pretty clear who won that fight. The jab of Stanionis, as I talked about last week, is just something else. And this was an interesting fight. On the books, much like Lubin Fundora, it was very, very even. And the eventual winner of the fight actually moved into paying better than even money. Before the first bell rang. So the betting community as a whole got this one wrong. Us on the panel got this one right, Steve. But I tell you what, there's one fight that I like if you were talking about clearing prospects for fighting for the title in a competitive division, hopefully against the winner of Crawford and Spence. And I'd like to see Stanionis and Boots go at it, man. I think that fight really clears it. I mean, that's a lot of talent to throw in the ring early, but man, I think that basically clears it out, and that's a worthy fight for the winner of Crawford Spence.
Yeah, I know it's it's common now to shit on Ben, and I'll shit on Ben later myself. But you're looking at Stanionis against Boots, and it's a different game for me, a different level at the moment. I would love to see that fight. I hadn't considered it, and I was maybe in a minority of how last night's fight went. I thought Diamante Stanionis won the fight, but probably like 115, 112. I thought it was closer than most. I don't agree with the Butaev card, but around the 10th round, Brian Campbell on the commentary said, if Stanionis puts his foot down, then Butaev might be ready to go. I didn't see that at all. And I always like the first round of fights when you see these little things you might not have considered beforehand. Like last week, you had Garcia against Tago, and I saw just how the size difference between them. Butaev looked really solid, the bigger welterweight, but then Stanionis' jab, really fast, really sharp. Butaev, could he get out of the way of it for the majority of the fight? No, he couldn't. But Butaev, he took advantage of Stanionis' high guard, lots of heavy hooks to the body, like he did against Jamal James. But Stanionis was made of sterner stuff. I thought Butaev's body work was really solid throughout, and he wasn't really getting the credit for it, which leads me on to my real gripe about this fight. The referee, I noticed the referee a lot. He stood very close to the action. He was always there fiddling and fussing about. No inside work was allowed. Stanionis was initiating a lot of the holding. He was dipping low, but Butaev was getting the grief for pushing him down. He got a point deducted in the end. I wasn't a fan of that referee at all. The Showtime commentator said, oh, he's got his hands full, the ref. But he was making it that way. I thought he was fussing about far too much. And later on in the evening, the Cruz against Gamboa ref, I think he did a far better job. So Rafael Ramos, he gets a belly of the week for me. I wasn't pleased with the way he dealt with it. But Stanionis, nice fast jab, in and out. I think a real big puncher like Boots would mark his face up. But he looked tough. He could have wilted in that fight, but he didn't. He had a bit between his teeth. He's going to be difficult to beat, Stanionis.
Oh, tremendously difficult to beat. And I might be rating him too high. But Andy, Rob kind of laughed at me when I said, I think this might be the best welterweight jab I've seen since Corte. Tell me another jab to compare it to. I mean, it reminds me of that fucking piston Corte jab.
Stern.
Yeah.
But I was reading some comments on Twitter during some in-between rounds. Forget who it was at this point, but it says like Butaev's body shots, you could hear him at the back of the stadium. And it was the same with Stanionis' jab. As you're talking about anything better, there's nothing better just now actually probably at what was that, welterweight? I don't see
I
it.
mean, that's a deep division. That's a talent division.
Yeah, and I don't see it. I mean, at the end of the day, people go like, for example, Spence is the number one guy at the weight. The thing is, what I see about Spence is he doesn't do anything great. He just does everything well. And he does it really well. Some fighters do something absolutely fantastic. Some are great at it, but they've not really got the full tools, to kind of put it all together. But Stanionis' jab, as I says, it is world class, mate. It's elite jab. The fact is he can get so much power on it, so much snap on it, and even to carry it into the later half of the fight when he's having to kind of rely on it, because after he's obviously had his combinations and having to cover up with what's coming back to him, he's got to get back punching again, because you kind of let Butaev just kind of like come at you. You kind of go to the ropes. You kind of cover up for too long, because the guy's just that guy's a monster, absolutely animal, man. The way Butaev goes at people. So you've got to keep him at bay, and the only way to do that really is having a pinpoint jab. And he dropped it head and body. Fair play to the guy. He put in the hooks. He put the combinations together, and there's not much more you can do about it. At the end of the day, is if that alone isn't enough to get your opponent off you, then you've got to dig in, and that's what he did. That's what he did there last night. Both guys did actually. Fair play to them. As I say, we hoped that the fight was going to be fight of the card, and I think it was actually. To be honest with you, it was fight of the night for me.
Yeah, it was definitely the most competitive fight of the evening,
and it was free as well. Actually, it wasn't even the pay-per-view section of the card.
I think it's good that people could just watch that one, having regular showtime. But I think that would have been a better fight right underneath the main event. That would have gotten some people ramped up, But anyways, I'd like to thank everybody in the chat today. We got Johnny H.C. Nelson. I don't know what the H.C. stands for. Michael Thompson, Joseph Kennedy, Take Ames, Leon the Canteen, Josh Ford, Jack Moran, Dez, Nathan Ford, Younger 7, Dale Baker, Kane Whyte, M. Lithgow, Jim McDonald Boxing, Jack DYO or Dio, Brutus the Great, Mark Stanton, Ryan Pettit, Sean Edwards, N, Sad Ken, Chris Butler, Craig, MB, Kent's Missing Scarf, Joe Burns, and American correspondent, Mr. Chase Athletics. Thank you, everyone in there in the chat tonight. We appreciate all of you. We appreciate everyone on our Patreon as well, and also any of those who feel so generous as to give into the super chat. We always appreciate that as well. Moving on, the rest of that card, basically for me, Steve, was the story of the last fight, or hopefully the last fight of 3 different fighters' careers, with Isak Cruz just beating the shit out of Yordenis Gamboa. Every time he got hit clean, his head stood straight up. Not a good look. Jose Valenzuela blasting out the corpse of Francisco Vargas in a round. Cody Crowley putting a beating on Josecito Lopez. Not as bad as the rest of those veterans against up-and-comers fights, but it was, man, I almost felt bad for those guys. They just got some ass kickings last night.
Yeah, a friend of the pod, Dominic Henry, was in touch with me saying that Dan Raphael had described it as a retirement party, and I think that's effectively what it was. I am a fan of Isak Cruz. He's a squat power puncher, throws big swinging shots. It was pretty pointless from the first round. All Gamboa was doing was holding on for dear life, whether it was the ropes or his opponent. He had no way of winning the fight, and I expected Gamboa to mess Cruz around for the first part, then slow down and get stopped, but he never looked at it at all. He's a skeleton of his former self, and he should just retire. Cody Crowley, Poundland, Caleb Plant, he did a good job, actually. I thought he looked impressive against Lopez. Now, what Lopez has left, who knows? But I thought Crowley looked pretty decent. Let's get him a good fight. He beat Abdu Kakarov in his last fight as well, so he's on a nice little run. PBC put these faded names out there to get knocked out. And Francisco Vargas, he stood there, threw a couple of nice jabs in the first round, and I thought, oh, here we go, this could be a decent fight. And the next thing, he took a big shot. I thought at first the referees maybe waved that off a little bit quickly, but Vargas seemed happy enough, seemed dazed, had a nice smile on his face. His corner seemed happy, so who am I to judge? The referee must have done the right thing. And then the other fight, Brandon Lee, big knockout artist turned boxer against Zachary Ochoa. The crowd were booing in the 7th because of the lack of action, which I didn't ever expect to hear in a Lee fight. Ochoa, he was just really wary of the power, skirted the ring, refused to engage. Lee showed he can go box over 10 rounds, but not under any particular pressure. So the jury's out on him now, beyond the highlight reel KOs. Last time he was too frantic against Heraldez. This time he was too conservative. So
he did cut off the ring well.
He needs to go back in with someone who's willing to engage, get back the excitement. Raul Marquez, I think, was not critical, but he was trying to say a little bit more than the others. But yeah, get the ring cut off, get these guys knocked out again and be an all-action fighter. But Ochoa didn't help matters. Overall, 5 decent fights. I think the Spence one was the best. Stanionis, Butaev was a good one. The rest of it, as Fat Dan says, bit of a retirement party.
Yeah, it kind of was what it was. It looks like they are setting up Spence versus Crawford though, and I think that's what everybody wants, right? It's one of the few super fights that we really have in boxing that we're looking at, and if we get it, yeah, right on. I personally think I think Bryn touched on it a little bit. I think that although Spence did well last night and his stock might have went up, his odds of beating Terrence Crawford from just looking at it went down. What do you think, Andy?
What the Spence's chances of beating Crawford have diminished?
Yeah, from looking at him there. There's certain things I saw, like when he went to the body, sometimes he was stepping through and squaring up and getting even into orthodox position and having to go back and reset. You see something like that. Bud's going to hit him with a hook, man. Things like that. Obvious moments, it seems, where the talent of Crawford is just going to be too much for Spence.
Well, the other thing is with Crawford as well, he does the switch hitting. I always said that I prefer him as a southpaw, actually. He seems to do some of his better work there. Again, the thing about Spence last night was, he was very aggressive, as we said. He was happy to let his hands go. Will he be like that against Crawford again, we'll need to wait on the night if it ever happens. But to be honest with you, at this point, the longer it goes, the more risky we get that we're not going to get the fighters at their peak, and then we're going to get the excuse that we left it too long. We'll have issues with the car accident, probably getting brought up. We'll have issues with Crawford and his lawsuit against Top Rank, or whatever's happening. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to say that Spence's chances have actually diminished, because I thought he was fantastic last night. Crawford, at the end of the day, you could say he's fought the weaker opposition. You can see that Spence is definitely shown he can be tagged against good guys. Looks like he's been wobbled, but he finds ways to kind of win the fight. Crawford's obviously a different animal, but again, as I say, he's shown he can be tagged. He is strong in the inside as well. As we mentioned that Spence was pretty good on the inside there last night as well. So I think it's just going to come down on the night who's willing to take it as well, because I'm just not overly sold that over the last couple of fights at least that Spence isn't the same fighter. Obviously, again, to see him get wobbled like that there last night does cause you a wee bit concern.
And Ugas isn't that big of a puncher. Yeah,
and as I say, he didn't let his hands go as much last night. If he had let his hands go, obviously, again, he was having problems trying to kind of defend the shots that were coming at him. By the time he blocked all those off, or took those shots, he just couldn't get shots off in time. But again, I just want to see the fight. I don't think Spence's chances have actually diminished. I don't think he is the same fighter. But again, as I say, the longer it goes, Crawford's not going to be the same fighter as well, because the guys are getting older. Training camps, their careers are going to catch up with them at some point. So we've got to get it next, and we've got to get it soon, within the next 5 to 6 months, hopefully before the end of the year. Because the longer it goes, the more concern that we get. And we've mentioned before in the podcast before, we're not convinced that this would ever happen. We're close to it. We've got the best chance of this fight ever happening. With Crawford being that free agent, obviously there's stuff he'll need to give up in order to try and get this fight. Probably he'll need to be the B side. Here we go. He'll probably need to take less money. You'll probably need to put a rematch clause. You'll maybe need to sign up with Al Heyman or whatever it's going to be. If he wants this fight, if both guys want this fight, then they'll do whatever it takes to get it made, and then we'll be happy. And if it does get made, I'll be happy if I step and pay for it, because this is what we'll be waiting for. But I don't fully think that Spence's chances have been fully diminished. Again, as I say, if Crawford can hurt him, I think, like in the manner of what happened there last night, it could be a different ball game. But again, if you look at how the way Spence responded to being hurt, it was that of a champion. So I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Andy. I think, to be fair, a lot of people have overplayed that. He was clearly hurt. He was caught off guard. I think Lawrence Cole, the kind of quick in and out, didn't help matters. Ugas was perfectly within his rights to hit him. I don't think Spence was hurt, but he shook it off pretty well, and he fought back strongly, I thought. I don't think he was on the verge. Some people seem to think like he was on the verge. I don't think he was.
No, I don't think so either, mate. So obviously, he did the wee kind of stanky. He's lost his mouthpiece. Yeah. I think he got distracted. He was looking for it. I think he then tried to kind of say to the referee, "Look, my mouthpiece is coming. Maybe try and get the fight stopped to try and get the mouthpiece back in." And if you look at it as well, as when they did get his mouthpiece put back in, they took their time a wee bit. Washing it out.
Took ages. Referee should have been on that.
Exactly, and he allowed Derek James to actually even give Spence some advice.
Yeah, talk to him. Mm-hmm.
Well, big no. So the referee fucked up there. He should be on top of that for the get go. But other than that, he come back fantastic. Steve said he rubbed it off, because look at the 7th, 8th, 9th, and then the 10th round. How he came out there and just put all those uppercuts and left hands on him. So really he brushed it off really well.
Let me ask you this though, Steve. All other things being equal, let's say they have as good a defense as each other. Let's say they punch as hard as each other. Who has the higher ring IQ between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Oh, you hating! Steve.
No, the ability to Crawford has shown out the two that he has the ability to adapt. He's more versatile. He can go southpaw. He has a lot of spite, but Spence showed a lot of spite last night. But then Ugas can't punch as hard as Crawford. It's a fantastic fight. The best fight in world boxing for me, and it has to be made. I've been a bit of a Spence fan from the beginning. Everybody knows that. There's no secret about that. My criticisms of Crawford have never been from his ability. My criticisms have come from a frustration that he's been fighting this shit. Now, I don't blame them for unifying, undisputed, whatever, but he went for a long time without fighting any reasonable opposition. Whereas over the other side of the street, after he re-signed, Spence was there fighting better opposition. That's been my problem. Now, there's no reason, well, maybe some reasons why he might not go to the PBC, as I've alluded to in the past and in the chat, but I would love to see him sign with Uncle Al now. He's a free agent. If he wants to fight beforehand against whoever, Thurman, whoever he wants to fight, that would be a tough fight, maybe someone lesser than that, or not. Go in with Spence straight away and let's see this mega fight. For me, you might be surprised by this. I would probably slightly favour Crawford, especially with a road accident. Spence has been thrown out of his car at 100 miles an hour. I think it's bang on 50-50 before the accident. But now, there's no way Spence can come back after that. Plus the eye tear with the Pacquiao fight and be the same fighter. And I think once Crawford starts tagging into that body, he's going to be in a whole world of trouble. I think it's such a shame that Spence isn't fully fit and firing, which I don't think he will be proved to be once Crawford gets stuck into in those late rounds. Two fantastic fighters at the peak of their respective powers. No excuses now. Get the fight on. I would slightly lean with Crawford.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, man. Like, one of the luckiest things that happened to Manny Pacquiao, because styles do make fights, is that Errol Spence had to pull out of his fight and Ugas stepped in. I think Pacquiao was going to lose that fight one way or another, but I think that Errol Spence would have crowded him and beat the shit out of him.
Oh, I picked him to stop Pacquiao. I'm pretty sure we had that conversation in the lead up. And regarding their respective routes as well, Crawford's obviously gone through in undisputed ruled as unified champion in divisions. He's gone through 3-weight world champion. He's done all those things. I know people have said, oh, Spence hasn't moved up and dared to be great. Well, he has kind of cleaned out the division, got to Porter first, got to Garcia eventually, been out the ring for far too long, got to Ugas, won all the belts. He has been fighting that better level of opposition, if not moving up through the weights again. So they're even Stevens for me. The two of them with their respective achievements, I think it's just all on for that mega fight between them now.
Yep, and that's what we want to see. That is that mega fight, but no mega fights on your side of the pond this weekend. But there was a little bit of entertainment. A night on DAZN, which featured two good right-hand knockouts from across the body. Chris Billiam-Smith in the 8th round taking out Tommy McCarthy in a rather dominant performance with an exceptional right hand across the body. With his opponent against the ropes. And then Conor Benn in the next fight in the 2nd round, taking out Chris Van Heerden with a really nice right hand across the body as he had his opponent against the ropes. Good card, Steve. Good last couple of fights. I mean, 10 rounds between the two of them, but they were 10 entertaining rounds.
Yeah, not so much about the good card. I did see the last two fights, Tommy against Billiam-Smith. I know Tommy, so it was disappointed to see him go out like that, especially after the first fight. He's always been a laid-back guy, naturally talented, lethargic. He's done well with his career, considering he suffered some early losses to the likes of Matiaski, and after Riakpo knocked him out, I didn't think we'd see him again. And he ended up as a European champion on the verge of a world title fight. He wasn't headline, he was supporting on DAZN, so he's done really well for himself, but I think just that killer instinct wasn't there. He looked lethargic from the beginning, and Billiam-Smith just outworked him and started hitting him hard and often, and Mark Dunlop's done a great job with him, but whether he'll be back or not, I don't know, but hopefully he's made a few quid. And on to the main event. I don't really have too much original to say about Conor Benn until he steps up in levels. That's not me being a hater necessarily, it's just how much can you gauge from Chris Van Heerden, from Algieri, from Vargas, from Ramos? All half-decent fighters at one point in time, but we won't know how good Ben is until he steps up against someone at the next level and beyond. He's undoubtedly improved since the early days. He draws fans because of his surname. Eddie's handling him with cotton wool, guiding him carefully to world title, which is understandable because given the precarious nature of Hearn's stable, he's bereft of stars. He's tucked away on an app. He's got to keep guys like this wrapped in cotton wool. And Ben, he's a spiteful finisher. He's learnt his craft well. In the first round, I noticed Van Heerden had a few little moves in his back pocket, which would have worked if he'd been fitter, if he'd been fresher. He caught Ben with uppercuts as he ducked and swayed inside. But Van Heerden looked like he'd already done 12 rounds when he was warming up in the dressing room. He's an old man. in boxing terms. Did you see him? Ben put him to the sword. That's what you got to do with guys like that. At least he doesn't let these guys hang around. That's what I like about Ben. He gets rid of them. And I don't want to see Devin Alexander or Robert Guerrero or Victor Ortiz wheeled out next. I want to see a test. I want to see someone who'll get the juices flowing and bring an element of danger to the ring, Matty. Someone like an Avanesian.
Amir Khan in the ring after the fight with him was...
I could have seen Khan at one point, but the fact that we last saw him getting beaten by Brook, I mean, just come on.
It says it all, actually. It says it all when you got Carol Froch, who's usually pretty good for actually, putting a hand grenade into someone's opinion, and they have Tony Bellew eventually admitting, Ben should fight Avanesian next. We've just been saying it for the best part of 2 years,
It's a good fight.
He's bypassed British and European title level, right? And okay, they've got the route for him. And fair play to him, says for the manner of what he did there last night, and taking the guy out. But you can't then say, well, Kilbrook, is wanting too much money, right? Well, Kilbrook's still a dangerous fighter at this point. He was, especially for a guy like Ben, who, by the way, I did think obviously Van Heerden's up in age and that, but I still think that Conor Benn's too small for for welterweight. Ideally, he should be at 140.
You think?
Yeah, mate. Of course.
Isn't he like 5'10"?
No, fucking Ben's he's about 5'7" or something, 5'6", 5'8", maybe tops. But Steve says, look, he took the trash out. That's what he did. Van Heerden mentally, it sounded like he was having a hard time of it because his dad died recently or whatever it was, and every time he spoke about him, he's breaking down into tears. He's not fought in 2 years. He's come in there once he started taking the heavy shots. His ambitions just really evaporated pretty quick. And Ben's done the business, right hands. I really enjoyed the Billman Smith Tommy McCarthy fight. Billman Smith made sure that McCarthy wasn't going to tie him up or spoil or anything. And it's a really good cracking scrap, actually, to be honest, with winging in shots, and Billman Smith's right hand was really catching Tommy, and it's put him over pretty heavy. So, all in all, that was only 2 fights I caught in the UK this week. Actually, I didn't watch the boxer card. Nothing there really interested me. Forgot the BT card was on, actually, to be honest with you.
I didn't even know there was a BT card.
Yeah, I haven't even checked the results, to be honest with you. So casual L for me. And it says I only caught two fights at the zone, to be honest with you. Because I was really saving my energy for the Stanionis fight before getting up early this morning. So maybe casual for me this week, mate.
Well, I caught the Baumgartner fight, actually, and she didn't look spectacular. Should have taken out a much older Matisse, but it was what it was. Fairly enjoyable day of boxing yesterday. Not the greatest day of boxing. I thought Rob would be in here by now, honestly. kind of caught me off guard on that.
Nah, Rob will not be on tonight, I don't think.
You don't think? Oh, he is not?
Nah, I don't think so, mate. I think he'll be in hiding just now.
Let's see here. So
which is a shame, actually, because I was expecting to maybe get a text message or a WhatsApp film a day, but for some reason, maybe his phone's not working for some reason. I don't know what the situation might be, actually. So we'll need to maybe give him a wee tweet to see what's happening with him.
Oh, dear.
I don't know what the situation could be.
Oh, dear. Well,
could be serious.
We do have some questions here. Got a question from Andrew. Let's see here. He says, do you think PBC will get a UK TV deal, or will we have to keep paying pay-per-view on Fight TV? I don't know who we is. It certainly isn't Andy and Steve. But Steve, give your thoughts anyways.
Yeah, there is a PBC UK TV deal as far as I'm concerned in my house, but I don't know about anybody else.
Team stream, baby.
No, the short answer is no. It never seems to happen, does it? Remember Heyman was going to hook up before with ITV, and I think they did have a few cards. Maybe Eubank de Gale was one of them. That was domestic, but we've promised so much, and we've always wondered ever since the PBC first came into operation, unless I'm remembering incorrectly here, and it's never appeared on UK TV, or if it has, it's never been a regular thing. I think Channel 5 might have even picked up one, or didn't they pick up Santa Cruz, Javonta Davis a couple of years ago, and it's always been a fleeting thing. No one has ever picked it up full time since Box Nation used to have a couple of cards on it. I don't even know if they even had PBC. It just doesn't ever seem like something that's been on a regular basis, and maybe with UK fighters or Irish fighters involved, it's happened, but we've never got those, like, say, a Lubin Fundora or just those run-of-the-mill Showtime cards, Fox cards. They've never appeared on a regular basis, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. Praise be to Uncle Aldo.
Yes, absolutely. Consistently delivering the goods, even when those goods are the sometimes entertaining 5-round scrap of the corpse of a once great champion getting walloped. It's still entertaining. Let's see here. And we had another one. Let's see here. Ryan Deal, our good friend, sent in. Let's see here. Following the gold that was Gypsy King, Gypsy King, Jesus. What other restaurants could be dedicated for fighters? Oh man, that's a really tough one there.
Anthony
Ryan.
Joshua Fernando's.
Tony Bellew with the Papa John's, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. James Toney for Burger King and Joseph Parker possibly for Burger King as well. Who else we got?
Bernard Hopkins for some sort of vegetarian place. Got to think of a clever name for it though.
Aliens.
Wasn't James Toney endorsing the coffee or something recently?
I can't mind, to be honest.
Aye, did he add black? Was it black coffee or something?
Was it a sign language advert?
Manjaro's in the Mayweather, says Take Ames. Play some metaskeletons.
Yeah, that's a tough one here. That is a tough one.
Or Carl Froch's restaurant, battered onion rings with every order.
Jesus God. Oh man, I'm trying to think.
If anybody has any, chuck them into the chat. We should have had a think about that one.
Yeah. I'm thinking Joe Calzaghe could come up with something, but I don't know which one it could be.
He loves the Italian food, doesn't he? The red meat.
Yeah.
Diamantes. When you get something for him, Mr. Diamante. That was some shit.
That'll be a drive-through.
Oh. What do you mean, like a drive-through with a body getting flung through the back end?
I can take you all up.
He's looking pretty all right. Didn't he say something back against all the people who had?
Oh, he's getting it later. Don't worry.
Okay.
Oh, don't worry. He was issuing receipts like fuck. It was going out of business, man. He was trying to cash and even trying to get his VAT receipts and that as well. Fucking hell.
He just might heal quickly. I don't know. Or maybe he was touched by God. It is Easter. Anything's possible, right?
What about Robert Easter? What happened to him, Matty?
Didn't he get in trouble for something?
He shot somebody, didn't he?
No, did he get shot in the leg after like some sort of guy came to his house?
Yeah,
that's
robbed
him
right.
or something, and then he stuck it on him. The guys came back with a pistol and shot him in the leg.
Someone was wandering around at ringside last night with a Team Easter tracksuit on. I noticed that was what reminded me of him.
Maybe AB. I see he's kicking about again.
Did you see Benavides last night with them glasses?
Yeah.
Shouldn't I for Bellew of the Week, man?
Fucking hell, man. What's he all about?
I also think I don't think I thought of anything, but the Charlo brothers as a whole, I think was it Jermel or Jamal looked particularly stupid, like the worst pimp hat I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't even cool.
Them too,
yeah. I appreciate a good pimp hat. Good pimp hat that was not, unfortunately. So I can't, man. I'm having trouble thinking of some other ones on that one. Honestly, that's a really good question here.
Mark Stanton says Diamante smash burgers. Josh Taylor was advertising a kebab shop.
Got my Daniel Kinahan comment in here somewhere. What kind of restaurant would he be running?
Tread carefully, Andy.
Who was that? Who was that broad that just got beat that is always talking shit about Argentinians? She should open an empanada shop,
Oh, Sandy Ryan.
There you go. Sandy Ryan's empanadas. Have you guys ever had Argentinian empanadas?
No.
Nope.
Oh, they're fantastic.
What are they?
Yeah, I'd say think of a much lighter kind of pierogi. They're kind of like a stuffed pastry crust, but they have beef or chicken, all sorts of different things. They're tremendously tasty. And
I'll stick to steak pie with soggy pastry, mate.
What's a pierogi? I'm following breadcrumbs here.
Pierogi, it's a Polish dish. It's like a stuffed dough, but it's usually stuffed with like potatoes, and it's just really rich and heavy. I have a hard time eating pierogies. Empanadas are much lighter.
Yeah,
one thing in America, man, I think I'd end up with a heart attack, Andy. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, mate, you probably end up like fucking $5, man. The fucking shite that they cunts eat. But I was going to say, just talking about shite, actually, Campbell Hatton.
I saw him too. I did see him.
Give us a breakdown, mate. Do you think world titles galore waiting for Mr. Campbell Hatton for the schemes?
He looked
better. I'm not going to lie. He looked better than he has. His opponent was
I
like
never saw it.
his opponent was seriously lacking. So it wasn't like it was a marker where you could say, oh, he's really moving up. But he looked better. He still looked like he got off to a quicker pace than he was able to keep up. So it's good that he was in a 6-rounder. He's got to learn how to keep that motor going. But he looked better. I like he is improving from when I last saw him, which was probably a couple fights prior to this one. I don't think I saw his last one or two. So I mean, I don't want to say, oh, he's going to the moon or anything like that. But even if it was just by a smidge, he is improving.
I don't know, man. They're going to struggle to do anything with him, aren't they? He is improving, like you say, but what kind of level? I mean, I always say no, but not everybody has to be a world champion. But I mean, is he going to be area level, British level? I mean, he struggles, the poor lad.
What's his popularity in terms of ticket sales? Because there's got to be a reason as to why he's like third up on that card.
Because of his name, simple as.
Yeah, but even
Hatton
that,
and Ben on a card, isn't it, in the UK?
But even that though, I mean, he's had 6-7 fights now. We've seen them all. Oh, I didn't see the one last night, but for what I read here, at least it was. It's been the same as every other performance, flatter to deceive. He seems to kind of want to walk into punching distance, throw shots, rather than work on his boxing,
Can't
maybe move his
punch,
feet. Can he punch like his dad, at least? He's a lightweight. I mean, the best thing for him really would be to start kind of putting him in about the area title level fights and see where he goes for there. But
at the moment, I wouldn't even put him in at that level, Andy. I really wouldn't.
Even that though, mate. But it can't be doing him any good putting him on third high on these cards.
His name transitions, doesn't it, between the casuals and the hardcores, and brings people in and gets eyeballs on, I think.
Yeah, I suppose, but there's only so much you can do with that though, mate. And then what's going to happen if he takes an L to some non-scripted fighter when he's third up high up that card?
I agree. There's only so far they can do that with him, and what they're going to do next, I really no idea. Your man's going to earn his corn, trying to matchmake him.
If you try to sell him on his name, at some point he's going to have to be stepped up, and then at some point he's have to be kind of maybe headlining shows if he's going to be, a long-term project at least. I just don't see it at this point.
That's a good question. I also here's another good question. Have either of you ever seen Anthony Gago fight?
No.
Anthony Gago.
There you go.
Spaniard.
There you go.
Possibly. Do you know he's fought in Britain before, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's fighting in Britain on Friday against Jazza Dickens.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, I was hoping one of you guys might know something about him. This is going to be on the undercard of John Riel Casemiro and Paul Butler. Yeah, I mean, if you know anything if you have any thoughts on that, either one of you, I'd be vaguely curious.
I'm trying the last time I saw him fight, to be honest with you. Go give me a second to pull his record up. Give me a second.
Andoni Gago, 36, El Macho. He looks like...
Right,
he looks like, to be honest, carrying Guerfi, he lost the split decision.
Here.
Gavin McDonald, technical there, Andy, yeah.
I'm just going to pull up that card there. Was that one? That wasn't a Sergio Martinez card. Nah, mate, I've not seen him for a while, to be honest with you, so I'm not going to comment on that. So he's fighting Jazza Dickens, you said, this next week?
Sure is.
Aye. Of course, Dickens is coming off that Galahad defeat. It's probably an okay opponent for him actually at this point. I just pulled up Geigo's records, as I say, he's not got much of a knockout percentage, so probably ideal for maybe Jazza coming back. So he was pretty much, wasn't much off the ball. He was outclassed against Galahad. Casemiro, that's him that was accused of the kiddie fiddling situation as well, wasn't it? He's been obviously
Filipino.
Yeah, Filipino.
Said I wouldn't drop that one as well.
Did you?
Oh, that's gold.
I'm assuming though. I see this is Probellum that's promoting. So I take it this will be in Eurosport next week, Steve.
Yes, I think it will. Where is it actually? Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Yeah, Eurosport, Andy. That'll be on.
So I wonder if Shine Disciples will maybe be putting their kids aside this Easter to go to work again this week. We'll wait to see. Evening, lads.
Yeah,
That is, like I said, that's on the undercard of we're getting to Casemiro and Paul Butler here. Butler hasn't been defeated since he lost to Emmanuel Rodriguez, Steve, and I guess it's kind of tough to measure Casemiro off of defeating that version of Rigondeaux, but you'd have to assume he's the bigger fighter. He's the harder puncher. This is one of our prediction fights this week. I'm feeling Casemiro by knockout in this one. What are you thinking?
Oh yeah, I would imagine so. Butler's a nice guy and he's a tough guy too, but his best days are behind him. And even when he was at his peak, I'm not so sure that he would have hung with Casemiro. Casemiro's on a good run. He knocked out Tete, he knocked out Duke Micah. I don't know if he fought between that and Rigon, though. That's best left to one side. I think it could have gone either way. Maybe Rigo could have snuck it with his one punch landed around. But Casemiro's all action. He's going to come out throwing to head and to body. And I just can't see Butler taking the power. And I think in the second half of the fight, maybe even as early as round 6 or 7, I think he'll end up knocking him out. And that's no knock on Butler. Like I say, he's been a solid fighter, former champion. Emmanuel Rodriguez beat him differently. He led him a merry dance. And then Tete knocked him out earlier in his career. But I can't see anything past a knockout for Casemiro, Matty.
I'm the same, Matty, to be honest with you. I'll just quickly dive in there. I agree with Steve. I think Butler's best days are behind him. I think his prime days were about a decade ago. He's up at bantamweight now. His prime days were probably flyweight. Casemiro, as Steve mentioned, huge banger. I remember him beating down Charlie Edwards. I can maybe see the fight kind of ending something similar to that fashion. I'm going to go Casemiro by knockout, possibly around about the 8th or 9th round. Butler's he's a very good technician, decent boxer, but probably not got the power as well, really, to kind of bother pretty much an animal like Casemiro, to be honest with you. Saying that as well, both have had kind of lengthy careers. They are up in age. They're in, twilight, considering the kind of divisions that they fight in. But they've also, as well, they've got the Zelaya Tete fights. I think Butler got stopped in, I think it was mid-rounds or whatever. And then, obviously, Casemiro done him pretty early. So they've got that barometer at least. But I do expect Casemiro to win and win well. 8th, 9th round stoppage for me.
All right. And so we're all in agreement on that Casemiro stoppage, and you are currently tied with Rob there, Andy. Steve in second place with 24 points behind your 26. And with my week of perfection...
Am I top?
With my week of perfection, I'm at 23 points, sniffing at the back on your heels.
Ooh.
Sniffing at my ass, mate.
Back as usual. Yeah, Matty, can I just add something in quickly? The Boxing Nutters group in WhatsApp have started up a parallel prediction league. Joe Kennedy, shout out to him. He's doing all the particulars, doing the points, keeping an eye on them. There's about 15 or 20 people in it altogether. So I'm going to be looking in there at the league table and maybe giving them a shout out each week or every other week, showing
Get
you
a life, everyone in that group.
Who's bottom are Joe Kennedy taking it on. And there's a prize in that one as well. Dr. Joseph's okra soup to the winner. Ooh. So it's all going on for the prediction.
Yeah, we all know how well our prizes are working out, Steve.
Yeah. Is that Rob? You're in the laptop, mate.
Uh-huh.
You're in the laptop.
Am I in the what? The wife shop?
No, you're in the laptop.
No, I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone, baby.
Oh, so your phone's working? I never heard from you today, mate. What's happening?
I have a system about these things. When I win, I'm delighted.
You do.
And when I lose, I don't care. It's a fucking winner. You know what I mean?
Oh shit! Hey,
Rob, in your own time, please. In your own time.
Hey, Rob,
I'll catch up with you afterwards for a chat about it. I was up the walls today. But anyway, and in many ways.
Yeah.
real quick, Rob. Why don't you tell me who you think's going to win between Casemiro and Butler? All three of us have Casemiro by stoppage, and then after that, you speak your piece, sir, on whatever you want to talk about from this weekend.
I'll go with that Casemiro by stoppage because even if I'm wrong, it won't affect my prediction league status. This is where we're at now.
This is where we're at. You are tied for the lead right now, Rob.
This is the stakes. The stakes are high now, and this is where we're
Who's leading it just now, Matt? Is it a tie between me and Rob?
Yeah.
It's going to be this way, mate. It's going to be this way. Yeah.
Have we got a boxing prediction league cup that Andy can go and win?
I'm like Aberdeen down there.
No, man. I suppose just of all fucking talk. Has anything big happened in boxing this week?
I love how you put boxing in there.
Yeah, exactly. Has there been any little turn-ups? I suppose you've had the chat about Kinahan and all that, have you?
No, not yet, mate. No, Kinahan, not yet. Maybe for Belly of the Week, possibly.
Yeah, well, look, I suppose we might as well fucking. Well, I was going to address it as the kind of like I've seen Spence, Ugas, saw Conor Benn, Van Heerden. I mean, look, fuck me. Apart from Baumgartner, by the way, what a beautiful lady. Forget fucking Obanov. Yesterday's news. She's yesterday's news. It's the era of Baumgartner. There's own card boring enough, like Campbell soup, okra soup. Fucking Conor Benn would have made to order, fucking make him look good opponent while calling him two of the best welterweights in the world were actually prepared to fight each other. And that's not a shot at Conor Benn. Like I said before, loads of times, I get what the zone are doing with him, but hyping him up like and putting all these like images on the screen of Terence Crawford and Errol Spence and all, it's not fair on him, like, because he's fucking miles off them and he's going to get hurt. And plus, he's not in the running for a fight against any of those guys, so I don't know what that does, but we know what the Conor Benn thing is, dude. You know, you're looking for pay-per-view stars, and if you can get guys that can fill out a quarter of an arena in Manchester, you're well on your way. I'll come to Ebony Bridges in Value of the Week. But with the Kinahan stuff like breaking loose, I don't know, like color me surprised. I didn't see that coming, and I'm sure the rest of the boxing world didn't see that coming either. When they saw the US government announce sanctions against Daniel Kinahan, the man who allegedly has been controlling boxing from behind the scenes,
The man with no friends.
yeah, and I thought to myself, as soon as I saw that the US are sanctioning Daniel Kinahan, I just thought, there's another government now jumping on the fucking bandwagon, trying to tarnish the reputation of a reputable businessman who's helped a lot of people change their lives and careers. So Dan, you know,
he's a great lad.
He was a great lad. Never did anything to anyone, but
He's
I thought
changed a few lives already.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting to see the split. Like, and everybody's up in arms this week. I mean, the boxing purists, the boxing hardcores, the boxing casuals. Everybody has an opinion on what way this lies, and kind of laughing at some people squirming and not like. Obviously, like the fucking move for most of the boxers now is to say, what Daniel Kinahan is. You mean to tell me that the fella that had the head of the Italian mafia, the head of the Colombian mafia, and the head of fucking the Moroccan Netherlands mafia at his wedding is actually into fucking drug cartelling himself? Well, I'm surprised. I don't want anything to do with him. Frankly, I'm upset about this. I just thought it was Nicola Talent all this time. I didn't know the fucking DEA were in on it as well.
You think you know somebody, Rob?
Yeah.
I mean, you think you know someone.
Yeah, so obviously, but all the boxers, the official line has got to be, we're distancing ourselves from this guy now, blah, blah, blah. I find it more interesting to see who the other ones that are loyal to the soil to them and are like, fuck it. We don't give a shit if he's a carteller. I've got fucking babies to feed in this house. You know what I mean? I can't fucking decide. You know, everybody, bad money's bad money. Good money's good money. No such thing. Cash is king. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to see, like, you got John O'Carroll and these kind of guys that are coming out and saying, listen, I know we have a drug problem in Dublin, man, but it's your own choice if you want to do drugs. Daniel is a great man. So it's going to be interesting seeing those kind of guys who've obviously benefited from Kinahan's insights and advisory roles and all that, how they kind of approach things. And it has to be a fucking PR nightmare for Fury. Like, I heard they banned questions and all that, like, because he's been the main one who's been celebrating Daniel Kinahan and kind of fucking pushing his name to the forefront, like, as an advisor and all that. Like, there was the whole, you know, we know the timeline on it all now, like, but I'm just interested to see, like, what boxing fans kind of expect from the fighters now. Like, do you know, like, I don't think, like, all jokes aside, I don't think any of the fighters are genuinely shocked on Monday when those announcements and sanctions were made. I don't think they were like, well, fucking hell, that's
they probably knew it was coming in until they get the money in order.
Exactly. So, like, the funny thing is that we're seeing how Bob Arams has turned complete fucking 180 on that. As soon as the US comes, he's like, what? He's an honorable guy. Stop talking about Daniel Kinahan. It's Nicola Talent. Get out of here. Get a life, for Christ's sake. And they're like, actually, US is sanctioning him, Bob. Get the fuck away from me, Kinahan. I never wanted to.
and then 2 days later, we find out the top ranks paid Daniel Kinahan $4 million in consultant fees for fucking Tyson Fury fights in Las Vegas.
Well, here,
Dan, shut the fuck up, you little prick.
Get him out of here, Daniel. Get him out of here.
Is there if there is any kind of like further kind of action against Kinahan, because the Colombian government are actually pushing the United Arab Emirates now to see can they introduce sanctions, trade sanctions on them if they don't extradite this guy. another fucking government jumping on the bandwagon there, getting fucking all caught up in the Sunday World headlines. There, the Colombians want to relax, wouldn't they? Take it easy. Trying to
Great
fucking
bunch of
tarnish
lads, boys,
legitimate,
by the way. They're hardcore.
legitimate businessmen. But like, I don't know, guys. I don't know what you think about it. Like, what's going to be the fallout of it? Like, is there going to be some kind of reform in boxing? Is that what people really want? Because like, I'm not trying to preach from the pulpit, and I'm not trying to come across as like some kind of gangster, but I've like got friends in all walks of life, and I'm sure like I can think of people, and I'm sure all of us on the panel can think of people who've taken this MTK money or Kinahan money or whatever it is, directly or indirectly over the while. Not bad lads. A lot of them good people with families. Like, maybe they made the wrong choices. Maybe they were getting advised wrong. Maybe it's hard not to take advice from somebody who carries so much power. I don't know. Like, but it's interesting to see where things are who's going to be the main player in the shake-up. Is this all going to benefit ultimately? All praises be Uncle Al in the end. Like, is the power shift going to move to him in the sport? Like, and now we see, because like, what's Frank without kind of that? What's Frank and BT without Tyson Fury and MTK? Is it going to have implications on the fighters themselves? I don't know, man. What the fuck is happening?
Rob, it is interesting because if you look at the strategy over Kinahan over the years, it's gone to different variations. It's gone from, oh, we don't know him, to, oh, he's brilliant for boxing, back to, oh, distance. And, it's been backwards, and they've tried all these different strategies all the time about whether they know him or not.
Well, far be it for me to try and advise the most powerful man in the sport and the advisor to the superstar boxers, but just stay the fuck away from them. I'm like, shut the fuck, you're making the block hot, man. Stop coming out, popping your head back up and saying you want to be an announcer or a fucking advisor and a promoter. Keep your fucking head down. We dealt with all this in 2017, sold the assets, legitimate company. Everyone's a legitimate businessman. Stop fucking putting yourself back in the spotlight, because in many ways, like, I don't know, fucking say, like, in many ways, you got to see that the efforts by the Irish government to lobby the US have come directly from the likes of like Tyson Fury announcing to the world that Daniel Kinnan is the best thing since sliced bread, and he's just made a 2-5 deal with Anthony Joshua. Like, that really got the backup of the politicians in Ireland, like who have been kind of dealing with this situation here for years, and that's kind of got them to kind of help seek assistance from other fucking jurisdictions to try and bring this guy to justice. And if he'd have just shut up and fucking stayed in the shadows, we probably wouldn't have heard anything about this ever again.
I noticed it was Poncher actually who was actually taking the press conference, so it was hardly kind of kiboshed any questions coming in. And I noticed that the GAD, which we'll get on in Belly of the Week, he was actually given 2 questions, right? Never asked one about Daniel Kinahan, but then if you read his article, it states Tyson Fury's promoter blocked questions on the link with alleged organised crime boss Daniel Kinahan. So I just find that kind of odd take of his, actually. Why just not take the opportunity? I know he's getting called out by people like Tris Dixon, you call him, Donald McRae's even had something said. Matt Lawton's had something come out as well. He's a chief correspondent for a newspaper. He was stating that Fury not asked the only question that matters, the one about Kinahan, never got said. And then obviously as well, we'll mention the Shite disciples who all of a sudden decided to take an interest in Daniel Kinahan. Then it's went quiet, and then this week their podcast is not coming out because they've got Easter Sunday or Easter Monday. But I've got Easter Sunday, I've got Easter Monday as well with my kids and my wife and that type of thing. I turned up, as Porky would say. Why didn't Neil turn up? Why didn't Neil turn up and ask real boxing questions? Come on, lads, where he's at?
But I think people expect too much from a lot of the fighters. That's my take on it. Like, I think sometimes, like, you kind of use. I've said this before tons of times on the podcast. Like, don't be using fighters as your moral compasses and expecting, like, fighters are from the bits in most places. Like, you come from really tough backgrounds, really tough decisions to make. Probably come from areas where the coppers and the government are the enemy, like, to them. You know what I mean? So and then if they're getting a chance to root for the villain and get paid, and it's all done legitimately in inverted commas or whatever. Like, what are they to do? You know what I mean? I don't think most of the fighters care from that. Are people going to be horrified that some boxers have low morals? Get a life is what I'd say to you. Grow the fuck up.
It's funny because it's no funny, I suppose, but they say is, well, he's never been arrested for a crime or an offence. He's never harmed anyone. But at the end of the day, Al Capone apparently never harmed anybody or was never convicted for murder, but they actually got him on tax evasion charges. Did they really think that they were going to take on the British, the Irish, the Portuguese, the Dutch governments, and then add it all on top of it, the American government? But all
Well,
their
they
fucking power and
they
fucking
thought
money.
they could. Then the American government, and then they,
Yeah, exactly. So the Yanks come calling, and they're like, "Oh well, we're in fucking bother here." And now they try to put pressure on likes of Dubai. But had Bryn on the call with us, or saying Cuba's the only place that fucking Kinahan can turn up at this point now. The way it's going.
Well, here's the fucked up
Well,
thing
you have a
about
big
it all.
stable to choose from.
It's like the thing is, and like with how this works is, back in the 30s and 40s in Denver, there was an Italian crime family called they're the Small Dones, and they ended up going to jail. Some got popped and stuff like that, murdered. But everyone in the community, the widowed mothers were able to feed their children and house them. Everybody had presents at Christmas and shit like that. The lines are very, very blurry on that stuff. And you almost argue these people do more good than actual government social programs sometimes. So I don't really have an opinion. But
You just
anyhow.
gave one.
And no, I was just outlining. But anyways,
it is the ultimate, wait to see
scared
what
Rob
happens.
away.
But I was going to say it's the ultimate wait and see what happens because you just don't know what kind of fallout you're going to have. I mean, if Kinahan has really got these tentacles all over the sport, I mean, I've heard rumours that he's involved in the Joshua Usyk rematch, which if that's true, Eddie's like fucking, he's trotting out like some sort of kind of company line. So is Frank Smith. So he would have fucking question to answer if at all he's involved in that rematch. So if he is somehow taken out at the game, he's arrested, put in prison, whatever it may be, what is the knock-on effect for the boxing world in general? So again, we'll just need to wait and see because it's only then, once he's taken out to play, will we see how much a stranglehold he has or had on the boxing scene, because maybe he's grooming guys to take over from him. Actually, you've had Sonny Edwards taking over some kind of promotional thing. I think he's kind of dealing with like some journeyman fighters. Billy Joe Saunders is a big mate, for example. You had a guy in the UFC there last night, bigging him up, and he was. I think it was Al Dawson. He was fucking putting the question to him, and you could see the guy was going to be kind of rattled about getting answered all these questions. He's trying to kind of like really trying to kind of get a body swerve. So it'd be interesting to see if he kind of like relies on the people that have been kind of like good to him as such, back to his corner to really try and take forward his company of fighters, I suppose.
I love it when people don't read the script, like the guy in Pakistan. Great to meet up with Corbellum.
Yeah, another thing as well is it was what's his name? Sandra Vaughan's man, Danny Vaughan. He was putting out pictures there last night with him, Sonny Edwards, Muhammad Wasim, Daniel Kinahan, and there was someone else. I don't know who that was actually, and I can't find the actual tag he put out. But he said like something like team or this is some team or whatever it is, So
yeah, it's a tricky one. Like the defense of him always seems to be. They go, well, this guy's an alleged cartel leader who traffics, billions of worth of heroin and cocaine and is responsible for X amount of murders. And they go, yeah, but what about the good he does? You stop focusing on all the bad things. You keep fucking bringing up all the bad shit. What about the fucking good things he does? That way. That's always the defense. Like, so that one's after wearing a bit flimsy, isn't it?
Some of us might see it as all good.
Mate. You could say the exact same thing about Pablo Escobar. Look at all the money he gave to the poor. He fucking built fucking football stadiums, grass parks, fucking
brought
play
hippos.
Parks. Bringing in pink flamingos. Who was to know he was going to fucking
John O'Carroll,
£500
Rob, you hater.
Yeah. Well, I think if this week has proved anything to me, it definitely shows that two things can be true at the same time. Do you know what I mean? So I'll leave it there. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that is it. It's boxing is an interesting thing, and the
jury is still out for me. By the way, sorry to cut across you. The jury is still out for me. There's still no criminal convictions. And Ben Davison gave an interview, and he said, "I don't know why people keep saying he's a drug dealer. I've been around him loads of times, and he never made any of those kind of transactions when I was in the room."
Yeah.
Sam Jones and what's his name? Fellow Umar say that he is boxing. He is a good man. He should be in boxing. So
yeah,
there's
who would have thought fucking
good
Bob
character
Arms
references for
by
you.
the way? Who would have thought you won't get a fucking word out of Frank Warren? He hasn't said a fucking whip singing. Can't get nothing out of Frank Warren. Bob Arms singing like a fucking canary.
Yeah, Frank's not a grasso. It was actually, Bob will fucking crash you at the course. Don't you worry about that. He did it to Don King, I remember, in regards to the IBF situation with George Foreman, I think. I don't know if Steve remembers that situation. We
Oh
did it
yes,
for
yes,
punches
yes.
for the past. It was
There's
Cedric.
a few I've
Cedric
heard over
Kushner.
the years. Some
Yeah.
bad ones, yeah.
So Bob's happy to take the fucking the good stuff, but he'll fucking sing like fucking canaries. You say actually if it gets put on top of him like.
I'll tell you what though, Rob. I think the politicians are making a mistake, because if they think the people are pissed off when the price of their beef goes up, what do you think they're going to do when the price of their cocaine goes up because the supply chain is broken?
But shootings galore in America, I can guarantee you that much.
I don't know, but
Well,
there's
there's
a few
that anyways.
There's a few listeners of ours that'll be on the breadline.
Hey, think of the money they would save though if they would just kick that habit,
Are you speaking of
There's
our
Ricky
strong...
tonight actually?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Are you speaking
a
of our
bad way.
strong Portuguese contingent, Rob?
He hasn't woke up yet. Never mind, fell asleep.
He woke up.
He'll be investing like Mark Cuban, man.
He was wired to the fucking local electrical circuit there on fucking Friday night for what I saw.
He'd be delighted today, seeing as he's a fucking born again.
I know. It's like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck was that about? Jesus fucking Christ.
Luke Kelly 1 minute and the loyalist fucking marching band the next one. He's got diverse taste of music as Ricky.
Oh my god, here we go.
Oh man. Well,
I wonder if he gets it that 2 steps back and again the fucking loudy with the hands and starts marching forward. I don't know if he does it that. I don't know if he's too serious about it yet. Won't you find it?
Anyways,
Ricky.
I think he's been better with your lad, Eddie, to be honest with you.
What's that? What's that? I missed that, mate. Sorry.
I said he fits in better with your lad.
No, he wouldn't name it. No, he wouldn't name it.
Do you think that he might fit in on April 20th in Melbourne in a card headlined by Michael Zarafa against undefeated Isaac Hardman?
I don't think so. I did see it listed though, but I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not interested in it.
It's 10 o'clock. Come on.
No, I'm just trying to get find some sort of a segue from this direction that we're heading here. I'm doing what I can.
What about the Tyson Fury fight? It was not much of a segue.
I was getting to that one. On the 21st, there's also from Indio, California. Starting on DAZN, they're doing a Thursday night Golden Boy series. This one's going to be headlined by Yoel Diaz Jr. against Mercito Yesta over 10 rounds at 140 pounds. On the 21st, Yesenia Gomez is going to be going to Canada to defend her junior flyweight title against Kim Clavel over 10 rounds, of course, 10-2s. And then we will go on over to the card that everybody does want to talk about. And I'm going to go from bottom to top on this card. And then we can talk about whatever on the undercard sounds interesting to you guys. It's kicking off with Royston Barney Smith versus Constantine Radois over 4 rounds. Then you got Kurt Walker versus Stefan Nicolay over 4 rounds. Carl Itama against Michael Siach over 6. Tommy Fury against Daniel Bosienski over 6 at 175. And David Adelaide versus Chris Healy over 8 rounds at heavyweight. Let's see here. Then Anthony Kakashi versus Jonathan Romero at 140 pounds over 10. Our friend, the master of English language himself, Isaac Lowe, taking on Nick Ball over 10. All that leading up to the main event of Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte. Before we get into that main event, gentlemen, anything that you might have of interest on that undercard? Because other than a couple of names, I'm at a loss on that one.
It's weak as shit, to be honest with you. Kurt Walker, Irish Olympian. I think he got beat off Duke Reagan in the Olympics. So
he's a good fighter,
good fighter. So he's up in age. He must be in his late 20s now. So hopefully they can get him along pretty quick. That opponent, Tommy Fury, when I was checking it out for Isla, I'm sure that guy's a middleweight, and this fight's happening. Was it light heavy cruiser? I'm not too sure. So that tells you about fucking what type of opponent that is. David Adelaide again, not getting a step up actually. An opponent 9-8, I think it is. It's not good enough. But in the day, look, mentioned last week, you've got a main event here that's costing the guts of 40 million. The undercard isn't going to be shit, man. It's just the way it is. As I said, I wasn't expecting big things off it anyway because it's all about the main event for me. That's all it's about. And as for Isaac Lowe, actually, Steve, that picture you posted in the WhatsApp last night, I have caught so many fucking fishes with that one, by the way. Swear to God.
Oh, good job. Can't remember who sent me that now. Might have been Dominic. Can't think.
Oh, fucking hell, man. It's brilliant.
Steve, do you have any thoughts on this? Is there anything that stands out to you other than the fact that it's shit?
Not really. Royston Barney Smith is quite the name. Kurt Walker's a good fighter from Lisbon. Watched him many times as an amateur. He's from not far away from me, actually. He's just working his way up the ranks for top rank. Tommy Fury, trying to keep him undefeated. No interest in him since he pulled out the Jake Paul fight. He needs to fight Paul or get off the pot. Adelaide against Chris Healy. No. Kakachi against Jonathan Romero. Remember Romero getting knocked out by Kiko years ago? And this guy against Isaac Lowe. I thought Nick Ball. I was thinking of Nick Webb at first. Getting all confused. Like Mr. Ghost Morning himself. Not much on the undercard to keep me entertained, to be honest. I think it's all about the main event. And just in case I forget, Matty, post-fight pod next weekend, I would imagine Fury against Whyte. What we're saying to get the post-fight pod on the go. I can take it or leave it, Andy. What we're saying here. 200 likes, 150. What should we go for?
I think we'll go for 200 likes, mate, and we'll do a post-fight Tyson Fury Dillian Whyte podcast. I will drink a bottle of whiskey. Rob will be on the cider. Matty will be hitting the bong live on air. I think it can be nothing but a car crash, to be honest with you. Like,
I'll go,
go to a party afterwards.
Yeah. Just to answer one of the questions in the chat, I was just reading. Was it Paul 123? He was just saying about Rob's comments. Why can't Daniel Kinahan keep his head down instead of trying to be boxing saviour? Because, in my opinion, I think he wants to come in from the fucking cold. Basically, he's sick and tired of running, kicking about Dubai with a fucking bulletproof vest on. He's wanting to somehow come in for the cold. That's just my take on it. James English is shitting himself because he's got the handover of that fucking that interview to the American government. Can you imagine? Oh shit! Sorry, mate. I'm my own time.
Anyways, that undercard doesn't seem to be a whole lot, so we'll move on to the main event. I'll tell you what, Rob. I watched a little bit from each guy this morning. Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte. I watched the Otto Wallin fight. Knowing that Wallin might be a southpaw, but kind of similar in stature to Whyte, and I thought that he gave him struggles from a small man standpoint. And then I watched some Dillian Whyte against Marius Vach, and I'll tell you what. Unless Dillian Whyte is willing to just kind of throw it all on the table and engage in the dark arts and get under Tyson Fury's skin, I think he's up Schitt's Creek without a paddle, sans Tyson Fury just not giving a shit and getting caught.
Yeah, I think the fight's finally here. Like, it's kind of... There's been so much shit about this fight between the arbitration, between the mandatory slot, between fucking Dillian Whyte getting knocked out and then knocking old man Povetkin out to regain his mandatory spot with the 1,000 days, with the non-turning up for the press conference. And I think if you're Dillian Whyte, you've probably done the right thing. Stay the fuck out of the public engagements with Tyson Fury and the back and forth, because there's no winner there, only Tyson Fury. Try and play a little bit of mind games. Pull the stunt at the press conference. I think the Kinahan thing, the timing couldn't have been better for Whyte, although I'm sure he's somewhere involved with MTK and a great bunch of lads as well, isn't he, at some stage? They're certainly kind of done business together in fights over the years, I'd imagine. But does that have a mental effect on Tyson Fury? He hasn't answered the question at all this week. There's going to be as much media pressure as Fury's come under in the past for the doping allegations and the homophobic comments and everything. He's kind of the what you call it, the miracle man, isn't he? He always comes back as the kind of king in the public eye. I'm sure there's going to be a massive media campaign now around Kinahan and Fury's relationship, and where does that put Tyson Fury's nice guy image? He's the born again Christian. He's the charity worker. He's the beacon of light for mental health, but he's best those with a cartel leader, and he pays him $4 to $8 million over a couple of fights. So there's going to be questions raised, I think rightly probably in the media, about that. Whether it'll have an effect on Tyson Fury in the ring, I very much doubt it. It is a narrative, it's a possibility, it's something that we could all discuss post-fight if we were dissecting it, if Dillian Whyte manages to pull off a result. I can't see it. Either way, southpaw, orthodox, I see Fury smashing up Whyte with the jab, lying on him, tiring him, walking to him. And I think it's just going to be like a heavy bag with legs by the time 7-8 rounds come. I think Whyte's going to be tired out, swinging that air and getting put to sleep on the end of something straight, or maybe even an uppercut. But I do think Fury will stop him within the distance and just get this fight out of the way. I think a loss for Fury is a possibility. Obviously, we're in heavyweight boxing. What would the fallout of that look like? An L on the record for Dillian Whyte, no rematch contract in place, no heavy scrutiny on the Kinahan connection. What does that do for Fury post fight if he suffers a loss? You know, we could talk about it for months down the line, but I don't expect it. I do think Fury will smash him up and move on, and hopefully we can clear the path now with just good guys, Frank Warren, Bob Arum, and Eddie Hearn, and get Joshua versus Fury at some stage. But that's hanging in the balance in itself, isn't it? Because Usyk is the boogeyman there, like to throw a spanner in the works. So maybe we'll see unification between Usyk and Dillian Whyte down the line. Who knows? But as I said, fully expect Fury to smash Whyte.
So you're thinking are you going to be going Fury by stoppage on this one, Rob?
Yeah, I think Fury inside the distance. I think the way where he fights on the Sugar Hill, it's a lot more aggressive, a lot more come forward, and I think the size is always a massive factor for Fury. And I was thinking about this, you know, maybe has he kind of got unfair advantages in heavyweight where he could have 30 pounds on someone because there's no weight limit, plus he has all his physical attributes, but there's been fighters with massive size before and huge physical attributes like Zavaliev. I suppose you go back in time, Primo Carnero, but Fury's one of the big guys that can move as well. He's very elusive. He doesn't really get hit with too much clean. And of all the fighters that troubled him, even you're going back to Steve Cunningham, that's a long time ago, dude. That post-date's kind of even Peter Fury's involvement, I'm sure, at that stage. I think Peter Fury could get into the country.
Peter couldn't get over for that fight. He couldn't get a visa to get to the United States for that fight.
Yeah, so I think I think that you're going back for looking a long way for chink in his armor. Even the first Deontay Wilder fight where he's with Boxer Size Ben fighting conservatively and back off a fucking 2.5 year layoff with warm-up fights, and he was still fat and heavy as well in that fight. Like, I think this version of Tyson Fury beats the living shit out of this version of Dillian Whyte, no matter what way you look at it. Like,
you know, I really am feeling like Fury by knockout, but there's this weird thought that I have in my head right now, Steve, and for some reason I see this possibility of the fight going the way of Vladimir Klitschko versus David Haye. Do you think I'm imagining something that will not happen?
Well, you do have a wild imagination, Matty, but I'm a bit like Rob. I've got Fury Whyte fatigue. I want to see it now, set it, forget it. And I'm thinking to myself, has Whyte got the power to put Fury down and keep him there? You know, if Wilder couldn't do it, then it's unlikely Whyte can. I just think Whyte's going to find himself on the end of a long jab, getting worked over on the inside, especially by the midpoint of the fight. He might, early on, a few wild swings, knocks to the body. He's not going to go out without a fight, I don't think. He's a hard man, a proud man, but excuse me, he's going to be lent on, like Rob says, tired out, end up getting stopped in about 9 rounds. Whyte offers nothing Fury hasn't seen before. And given the image discussions as well and the associations with certain advisors, Fury's fighting on ESPN, you know, a gigantic powerhouse of sporting media. Surely they're going to have something to say or decisions to make after this fight. Can't see them staying quiet on the whole thing. And excuse me again. Another thing I was going to say as well, just finally, is who's the referee? That could have a bearing on the style of the fight or the outcome. Maybe not the outcome, but, you know, the way the fight is fought on the inside, on the outside. Anybody know the referee is?
Well.
I hope it's not Bobby Madden anyway, I'll tell you that.
What a performance that was today, mate.
worst referee performance in Britain.
I know he missed that offside on a fucking, you call it bullet head up front. What's his name? Maida. Fucking fortnight offside, man. Fucking play them on. On your own time,
on our own time, yeah.
Hi, Rob was mentioning there about Rivas as well. Povetkin, Parker all had him in trouble or down. with Whyte. Fury early on was an exciting fighter. His fights against Further and Nevin Pajkic, and then you mentioned the Cunningham one, and then the other 3 knockdowns have all come, or 4 knockdowns have come courtesy of Wilder. So he can definitely get hit and hurt and knocked down, but he keeps getting back up again. And Whyte always looks out. I mean, look at the Povetkin one, absolutely out and up at 8. So I struggle to see a way for. I don't think Whyte will go out feebly, but I struggle to see a way, Matty, for him to win. And yeah, I was just wondering who the referee and the judges were. We'll probably find out during the week. As long as he's not one of the Brit referees. Sorry, I know I'm jumping back in again, but I don't want to see Howard Foster or Marcus McDonald in there. I want to see a Yank.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's all foreigners, to be honest with you, mate. It's doing even the judging, hopefully. I think that, but I don't know, a stick of contention, actually, to be honest with you.
That's probably for the best. So you're thinking Fury stoppage as well there, Mr. Wellings?
Yes.
All right. And Andy, it's it's Fury can be cut. He can have some trouble at mid-range, which is where Whyte does a lot of his work. But the problem that I see with Whyte particularly, and why I think he's going to struggle with this, it's just the gap in foot speed. Fury just so much more fleet of foot. Whyte just more plodding. I think that Fury most likely is going to be dictating the distance in this fight the whole time, and that's just going to make for a bad night for Dillian Whyte.
Yeah, I kind of think this can be as easy as hard as Tyson wants to make it for me, to be honest with you. As I say, Whyte obviously needs to be respected. He is a heavyweight at the end of the day. He's got a decent dig on him. He's got a good left hook. So as long as Tyson switched on, he shouldn't have too much a problem for me, at least. As you say, keeps it at mid-distance. He can box him. He can move him. He can switch southpaw. So again, if he becomes a wee bit too aggressive, he can definitely take him out. As Rob says, Whyte's been dropped off. Povetkin, Parker, he went life and death with. Rivas.
Miscellaneous was him, Andy. Do you remember a little bit?
I'm sure he did actually as well. I'm just trying to think. Obviously Joshua dinged him up as well, so he can be hurt. Even against lower level opposition. I mean, we put Fury as the elite of the division just now. So in my opinion, Fury should be handling him. I'm like Steve as well. As I'm just fed up with all the shit and all the chat about the 5-year wait for a mandatory title shot. All the pish that's went on in the background. I just want to get the fight over and done with, to be honest with you. It's a bit fatigued, shall I say, because this is just like a bone of contention that's just like been held us back for the big fights we want to see happen at heavyweight. Fury against the winner, Usyk Joshua. So once we get this shit out the road and done and dusted and put to bed, then we can start looking forward to hopefully around about December time, once Joshua and Usyk finally get the rematch done and dusted. Maybe get the winner of that fight in with Fury at the end of the year. But as I say, Fury, obviously, he needs to be switched on because obviously Fury can get tagged. He's been dropped, that as well. So you just didn't want to run the risk. And I know Fury's shown great resolve and resilience in getting up when he looked like he was fucking sparkle, but you just didn't want to keep taking those sort of risks and running the risk really, and taking one shot that's going to fucking put your lights out for good. So as I say, keep it smart, keep it at range, and then at the right moment, because Whyte, for me at least, fatigues in fights, and he can get desperate, and that's when he starts winging these shots over. And I think that's the reason why he knocked out Chisora actually in the rematch. But it says as long as Fury's switched on, I just don't see what else Whyte has got to actually bother me. To be honest with you, it can make it as hard as easy that he wants. But I'm going to say Fury by 10th round knockout.
Guys, I'm thinking Fury stoppage too by stoppage too, and we're all in agreement even on the other fight. So you know what? Let's switch this up a bit here. Are we first half? We got to go first half or second half of the fight for how we think it's going to go. So you think second half, Andy?
Second half, mate. Yeah.
All right. Let's change it up a bit here. Rob, first half or second half?
Of extra time.
I knew you were going to say that.
Steve, first half or second half?
Second half, and Mark Lyson's the referee, by the way. I'm not really a fan of that, but anyway.
All right. You know what? I'm going first half.
Really?
What round are you picking then?
For you going first half?
Yeah, I don't know that he's going to come out like first round kind of gangbusters, but I think that one of two things is going to happen. Let me say, I was really close to picking Fury by decision because, like I said, I got this weird feeling that it could be like Klitschko, hey, where Whyte just stays as far out as he can and doesn't engage. I could see it being like that. But at the end of the day, I actually think he is going to go for it, and he has a shit motor. I think he's going to burn himself out in about 4 rounds. So Fury in the 5th or the 6th.
Wow.
Yep. Rob, are you with us again?
What are we saying?
First half or second half? Because we all agreed on Fury by stoppage.
Oh, what do we have to split it?
Yeah, we're gonna split it.
He's trying to spread to see if we can get the
parlay.
This wasn't in the script, Rob.
This wasn't in the
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
script. I thought I'd just give the prediction. Was he fucking
I never
half
saw this in
points
small print, by the way, bitch. What the fuck's going on here?
This is half-point scoring that they're still doing in some territories.
Wasn't in the show notes.
I'm gonna go over on the over. I could go after. I was saying 6 or 7, but I say maybe the second half of the fight.
Second half. All right. Boom. Cool. We'll go with that one. All right. I stand alone, but there's something different. All three, all second half. Me, I think he's going to go early. Let us see what might happen on that one. I am looking forward to that. And, before we go over to the values, just real quick, I don't want to leave out Chris Butler. He's so kind to the podcast. And Stevie, he sent a good question. He said, given the amount of tickets sold for Fury Whyte, is Fury now a bigger draw than AJ in the UK?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I'm useless.
It's hard, really, because Fury's no fought here for a few years, to be honest.
Yeah, he's been in and out of the public's consciousness. He's been a pariah. He's loved again now, the mental health thing. But AJ, he had the power machine behind him for so long, and no, I don't think so.
Andy, you have any thoughts on that one?
Pretty much like Steve, mate. I think we'll maybe get an idea on Saturday, actually, to see how people respond to him, really, to be honest with you. Look, he paid the price for some of the comments he made about marriage or women's place in the household type of thing, and it was tongue in cheek. It was clearly banter and that. It's locker room stuff at the end of the day. It's just unfortunate that it's fucking society these days are just they take this sort of thing to heart. They take umbrage to it, basically. Look, he's come through some dark days. Some people debate it, some people dispute it, really. But to be honest with you, if you look at the state that he was in terms of like size and weight, to come for that to what he's achieved, that is massive, man. That is a guy who was done with the sport, drinking, taking all sorts, whatever it is. So to change his life around, by the way, that takes some fucking serious credit, actually. Fair play to him, because not many people can do it from a mental health standpoint, to say, I need to get better, I need to get myself better here, I need to do this, I need to do that. Some people just can't do it, and for some reason or other, they fall away and they actually get worse. He's come back better, so fair play to him.
Yeah, and he's done it without losing that bit of himself. He still has a lot of fun. It just seems like he's not destructive anymore, self-destructive more so.
Just getting older, mate, wiser. He's got the kids now. He's maybe just happy in himself, really, just settled, basically.
At some point, you realize you can drink a whole lot more scotch from your own couch than you can going out to the bar, right?
Yeah, I suppose. But it'll always be a problem for him, I think. But it's to say, boxing, it's probably saved him, to be honest with you. Being active, training, just that's the other thing as well, is people will say about you, if you've got depression, the best thing for you to do is to go and work out, go for a run, hit a heavy bag, cycle, run heavy, just whatever it is, man. It does wonders for you.
Yeah, sunshine is a big deal. I know you guys don't get a lot of it out there, so do it when you can. So, but anyways. We will see that fight on Saturday, and then, coming from that, we're going to be just pretty much steady with great boxing action from here for, about another month. But until then, I'm going to send it over to Steve for the Bellew of the Week.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Bellew of the Week for episode 470 we're on to now. Matty's here, as you just heard, Rob Kelly as well, and Andy. So we all agreed then 200 likes if you want to hear a Fury versus Whyte post-fight. 200 likes is the currency. And just before we go on to Belly of the Week, so sorry about this, I got one of those captures come up on the screen. You know, those capture things where you have to click on the images to get round it. So many apologies about this, everybody. Let's do it together, shall we? All right, here we are. Select all images with motorcycle accident fraudsters. Okay, so we've got one at the top left
You
here.
savage bastard. You motherfucker.
Verify. There we are. We got it.
There we go.
They're a nuisance, them things, aren't they?
They are, mate. I'm just going to pop some information on Mr. Diamante, who just travelled to Vietnam and just travelled to fucking Tibet and just travelled to fucking Africa and just travelled to Australia on his fucking motorbike. Oh, what a man! What a man!
I've got to give props out to Ryan Deal, who created that fantastic little.
How did they get in the ring there last night? By the way? Did they get lifted over the top rope or did they roll under the bottom rope? What happened? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, if we don't get in trouble for that one, we might get in trouble
Came
for
out
this
on a
one.
motorbike, didn't he? Like Eubank at Mill Street, Cork. He's on a
Right, we're going to leave him alone now. No more Diamante. We're going to leave him alone. Go on then. One more thing, as Columbo would say, just before we finally check out of this one. Here's a little production we put together for the man himself.
From the four corners of the world. The fight starts now.
Do you have any recollection of the accident?
Very little, sir.
So like I just rode through India up to Pakistan. I just rode through Sri Lanka. I just did Haiti. I did Colombia. I did El Salvador. I did Honduras. I did Ethiopia. I did Somalia. I did Myanmar. I just went. I just did a Vietnam through Cambodia trip. I did Laos. I started in Holland, then England, France, Spain, Portugal, Luxembourg, Belgium, Czech Republic, Hungary, Austria. I went to Italy, all the way down to Sicily. I went to Greece, up to Turkey. I went down to Morocco. I went all down through France and Carcassonne and Toulouse. I went to all... From Athens, I flew down to Cairo. I went all through Egypt, down through the Sinai Peninsula, then up through the Middle East. I took a boat from Nuweiba across the Red Sea to Jordan, traveled all through Jordan. Actually went into Saudi for a bit, then I went into Jordan, went all the way up Jordan, then back down, crossed over into the West Bank, went through Palestine. Then I went to Jerusalem. I hitchhiked to Jerusalem, stayed in Jerusalem. Then I went out to the Dead Sea, to En-Gedi. Then I went back through the Gaza Strip, down through the Suez Canal, back to Cairo. I flew to India.
I don't need a suit. I've got special skin. Asbestos. The doctors are baffled. I'm a genetic freak, me. Wanker.
And I traveled through India. Then I went up to Nepal, Kathmandu. Then I traveled up to Tibet. Traveled through Tibet, got detained and kicked out of Tibet, actually. Went back to Kathmandu, then flew back to India, but this time to the other side of India, to Calcutta. Traveled that region. Then I flew over to Southeast Asia, traveled to Southeast Asia, then over to China.
You can't hide your light.
So I get him, I'm taking him out, and the bartender jumps over and punches him in the face as I'm holding him. And the guy, I was like, what are you doing, bro? I threw him through the triple doors, got him outside. The whole place erupted like a powder keg. Saw Kurt Cobain in there, walking through. Like, a lot of people came through that club. Turns out it was the drummer's brother. The drummer jumped off stage and started hitting me with drumsticks in the head. So it turned into this massive brawl, and the other door guys came, and we ended up beating these guys up, breaking their instruments out on the street. It was crazy, man. Because I had found my family in the street. Do you know what I mean?
Played in a bunch of other different bands and played with Kurt from Metallica. He was a buddy of mine, and I ended up giving him drum lessons, and then we became friends. And
my God, the drummer of Metallica got fucking trained and taught by David Diamante. Holy fucking Christ!
And that's not even the drummer's name, apparently, either. No, I know Metallica experts, so I don't think the drummer is called Kurt. Yeah.
Oh,
championship manager completed it, mate.
He's been handing out receipts for all these pictures this week as well, hasn't he? This is true. And he's even been fucking getting pictures of Google Images as well to fucking back up his point. Some fucking
That's
bullshit.
Thing is,
to the
though,
vertebrae.
fair play to Tim Boxeo sent in a lot of the footage to that. I could have made another one, twice over. There was that much stuff. Oh, well, not me. Obviously, it wasn't me who made that, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean, Andy?
Yeah,
it could have been a second one made.
How do you know he's not the most interesting man in the world?
Found his family in the street. You know what I mean? That's how we live our lives these days. Fucking lone wolf just traveling the fucking lands like David Carradine from Kung Fu.
He is 50 years old, so he is old enough that he could have met Kurt Cobain at a club in theory.
But the thing is, they don't claim to have like 8 pedicle screws kind of inserted into his back or something. So that's not a fucking T11 fucking fracture that he's had. The video the doctor that he put out. So if he's got a single level spinal fracture, as Tom says, or as Tim says, then the most routine thing that's ever been done by back surgeons. So it would probably explain his fucking fast recovery, to be honest with you. So
there's obviously truth. There's obviously a lot of truth to it, but there's some things maybe going to be embellished.
There's something happened to him, obviously. I mean, at the end of the day, he's probably fucking fell off a fucking push bike rather than a motorbike at the end of the day. Hasn't he done a fucking Diego Corrales, for example? You know. Something's happened to him. It's clearly something's happened to him, but it's not been that serious as such. He's fucking walking again. He's fucking claiming he's had to learn how to walk and learn how to eat again.
I think it might be a head injury.
Possibly, aye. CTE, fucking memory, you fucking forget things and piece back the pictures again and that type of shit.
Fair play to the boys. Yeah, Ryan Deal was there, Danny Young. I think Gaz sent one in as well. Sam, yeah, some great photoshopping in the Boxing Nutters Messenger forum. So they were working overtime. There's a few more videos to come up as well. Top Notch did send me a video in on Ebony Bridges on one of those SAS programs, but unfortunately I tried it before the show, Top Notch, and the sound wasn't very good. So I've had to ditch it until next week and I'll try and improve the sound. On to the action. The Motor City Cobra nominated.
Yeah, mate.
This week we couldn't hear her.
Mate, Tim Boxeo's in the chat just says there that he's seen that David Diamante has seen more carnage than El Chapo.
Oh dear. So Conor wrecks this man inside 3 rounds. I see the Destroyer going through the division and smoking the likes of Bud and Boots before moving up to 154 and 160 eventually.
Well, there's someone smoking Bud there with that opinion.
I know. I need to get some of that stuff.
I haven't been that high.
Not yet, Matty, not yet.
I could try.
You would be if you sat on one of these guys lying down. Their highly anticipated heavyweight trilogy at the Mecca of Boxing, Big Punch, Richard Chachita Jaramillo Flores against Gonzalo Lopez Rodriguez. What about that, Andy? Some fine specimens on display.
I'm looking at the specimen on the right-hand side, mate, the one with the big thighs.
Ooh, you like the Colonel?
Fucking nut
one of these
crushers,
bimbos.
Exactly, Colonel Bob. But look at the nut crushers, man. Holy fucking Christ.
I know who's responsible for the food shortage.
Aye. Vladimir Putin.
Doing a bit of refereeing there.
Shimmy has nominated Big Frank doing the press in his motor. No messing around from Frank there, getting on the screen.
Yeah, that was kind of poverty-esque, wasn't it? Eh? Fucking hell, man.
Logged on by 4G.
Yeah, here we go.
Here he is again. Give it up, getting ridiculous now. We're not really sure of the truth anymore. A bit like David himself as to this story, but there's some truth to be found somewhere, but who knows? It's just a bit of a laugh at the end of the day. I think it was Wooge and Ricky Graville was getting thrown in there as well.
Yeah,
was Frank in the car because someone was up to call around and knock on the door?
Don't sue us, David. It's just a bit of banter, mate. It's just a bit of a laugh. Didn't need to send his receipts or any more pictures. We get the picture. We know the picture. You're right. Your missus didn't leave you during your fucking time of need. That's good. She's a keeper. Marry her. That's what you should be doing at this point. Never fucking mind about us trolls on Twitter, questioning your story. That you taught Metallica how to play fucking drums. That's fucking Jesus. Fucking.
But look at that terrible X-ray up on the screen, and now he's just fine in announcing fights. On this Easter, I think it's just further proof that through Christ all things are possible.
Well,
so,
it's
go ahead and jot that down.
It's crisis weekend, I suppose, so anything can happen, I suppose, Fucking brilliant, man.
Surprised he wasn't there. Had a story about when he met Lazarus or something.
Yeah.
Oh, good times.
But the thing is, he seems to be like, he got kicked out of Tibet. Well, they had obviously the people of Tibet are quite,
they thought he was China.
But they know. Fucking, he's bad news. Get him out of here. But I love how he gets into all these countries with, with an American passport who fucking, generally speaking, Somalia, I wouldn't think Americans would be fucking welcome in there without, proper fucking background checks and visas being issued.
His family he found his family in the streets, Sandy.
Oh,
Come
sorry,
on.
mate. Sorry, I would have forgot about that. Aye, kid of the streets, isn't he?
Yep. Daddy was a street corner.
How the fuck does that play out now for Anthony Joshua, by the way, on the side back? Seeing as he's fucking inspired by the likes of Big Meech and Larry Hoover when Fury is really hanging with the bad man then.
We should maybe mention 256 Management. Who owns 256 Management, Anthony? We want to know. We must know.
Get that laptop handed in.
You talking about Gareth A. Davis now?
All of them. A clean sweep.
Oh, yes, Steve. Come on, play it for me, baby.
What's going on?
Professional pervert move there, wasn't it? You see him?
Do that again?
Don't know if we can hear Steve. Is Steve on mute?
I think Steve might be having a bad connection or something like that.
It's a bit of a problem then, because if he's got a bad connection, he's the one that's running the belly of the week at the minute.
Yeah,
so.
let's see here. Where are we at here on the values? Uh-oh. Let's see here.
Don't tell me Diamante's got his iced. Steve, are you there, mate? Steve? You're unmuted.
Uh-oh.
Oh, he's dropped
All right, let's see here.
Probably going to come back up shortly.
Like Diamante.
Aye.
Andy, that's a little small for my my eyes. What's going on in this one?
Joe Kennedy's put up Shite Disciples by the looks of it here. Story in 4 parts, couple of covers. There's Steve back on. Steve, you hear us, mate?
You hear me now?
You can hear you now, mate, yeah.
There was no bar anything showing. That was weird, man. Have we been iced?
No, it doesn't seem to be. We're still live.
Not to
Play
worry.
the Gad clip again if you can, mate.
Yes, I will, certainly. Not sure what was going on there. Let's see. Here we go.
So that's Gareth A. Davis taking a picture of Sky Nicholson, the new signer of Matchroom, like a professional pervert. There's something going to be cropping up about this guy in the next 5 years. There's got to be, man. The way he took that was just so smooth.
He's probably selling it to that guy that frames all the Ebony Bridges pictures, isn't he?
We've got one of him coming up shortly.
Coming up soon. Did you give us the lowdown on Fight Disciples there? I suppose we spoke about them earlier, really, didn't we?
Just about as you came on there, so on you go.
Yeah, well, we spoke about Fight Disciples earlier. We know all about them, so we'll move on because we've got quite a few. On to this. Never mind Josh Warrington. What about Alexander Usyk's new hairstyle? Come on, Andy, you could have that going on, couldn't you?
Could have, fuck. What are you talking about, you cheeky cunt? You could have that haircut. You look like Rob, actually.
He looks like an extra from Inglorious Bastards.
Exactly. But that's a cost-like haircut. I couldn't even pull the tash off, man. Fucking hell.
Oh dear. Looks at me. Maybe he could pass himself off as Father Stew. Forget about Father Dave. It's all about Father Stew. Has anybody seen this one? Mauricio Suleiman. Can't miss Father Stew. Incredible, inspiring movie with Mark Wahlberg. Boxing again, featured in a blockbuster film.
No,
he's a priest, you know, Andy.
He's a priest, you know, mate. But Matty usually is the one for the movies, actually. Matty, do you know anything about this shit?
I don't know as much as you think that I know. I know very little, actually.
So I don't know what I think I know about you, but you do know.
Wahlberg's the fucking same in every film. What's he going to be a priest? Hey, I'm a priest, you know. Why did you say hi to your mother for me? Okay, I act like this in every movie. I'm Mark Wahlberg.
You want to get high with a teddy bear?
Been there.
Hey, I read something actually. I read something on Twitter last night that he took home the prosthetic foot-long cock that he had in Boogie Nights. He straps that on every other night, you know.
He might need to loan it to BJ Flores.
Speaking of Dirk Diggler. Look at this.
Here he is.
Here he is, the main man. About time 2, Billy Boxing 2.0. Nominating the guard. We don't want to make any presumptions about the guard. He might come on with us one day. Who knows? Get him on the panel, man.
Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble for fucking libel, Jesus.
We're just presenting information. I think the Diamante thing, we've already got that covered.
Jesus Christ.
Listen, if David's listening, any inquiries, go to Ben Wiseman Industries in Massachusetts. That's your lawyer's office.
Ben Wiseman, exactly.
Don
Or
Trella.
crazyboxing.com, Andy, who wants us to buy them.
Don Trella will soon
Oh,
sort
he'll
that out.
kill you. He'll fucking kill you.
You could take it up with our legal correspondent, Bitcoin Rodney.
As of right now, everything connected to this podcast is based in, not in America. So, fuck you.
Sorry, I meant our legal team is Repo Rick and the boys. So,
Yeah, don't make us sick Bitcoin Rodney on you.
We pay out in NFTs, so if anybody sues us, we're happy to pay.
Most of them are just my balls in different pastel colors.
Bingo dollars, mate.
We've got medical care covered as well, medical insurance through Dr. Joseph Ajao, Aqua Soup plan.
Where were we? On the Gad. What better place to be? On to this next one then. Like father, like son. Which son of a legend will have the greatest career? Conor and Nigel Benn, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Sr., Chris Eubank Jr. and Sr., or Campbell and Ricky Hatton?
It's like Savage just started his career, eh? Fucking hell.
I fucking hate
looking for a handout. That's what he is, isn't it?
hate everybody's son being a fighter. Piss off. You've had a good life. What do you want to fucking take up my time for now with your fucking pipe dreams wanting to be world champion like daddy? Piss off. I'm not getting excited for another fucking son of a fighter unless Father Dave has a son in the stash somewhere.
He's a priest, you know.
Yeah.
That'd be a story in itself.
Well, you never know. Talking of sons, here is Campbell himself. When I was growing up here, I used to dream of boxing at the Manchester Arena. In less than a week, I got to box there for the first time in front of my home crowd. Anyone who's been will agree it's a special venue, and the atmosphere will take some beating. We're nearly there, Campbell.
How old was he? 2 months old when Ricky moved out of there, was he?
Yeah.
He's only about 15.
Grew up at Gated Mansion, did he know?
He's sitting on his lap in fucking Vegas, wasn't he? For fuck's sake.
I've seen people actually fucking debating the actual situation that says, well, when did Ricky and his mum actually break up? You know, Campbell's mum break up with each other. Did Ricky actually put his baby mama up in a good house? Did they give her some money? I'm like, dude, you're taking this literally too seriously. What the fuck is going on here? You know, end of the day, he's grew up pretty okay. He didn't stay in that fucking scheme, I can guarantee you.
Asking the big questions here. Isaac Warrior Low. Ghost morning.
Goose morning. Goose morning.
Every once in a while, I do like a good salted beer in the morning. Ghost
Daniel
in the morning.
Kinahan is
Isaac.
innocent.
Oh, what a legend.
Fucking love it.
Isaac.
Love it.
What else have we got here? Shawnee Stevo. 2 years ago, I wasn't convinced. Since then, I've been rating him all the way. I think Conor Benn has displayed exactly what he's about. He stops Chris Eubank Jr. in round 4 to 5. I'm not sure who made this statement, but they've been nominated for Bellew of the Week. Anyway, I think one thing, Andy, after watching last night, it makes you realise just how dangerous this sport of boxing is. At the end of the day, there's lives on the line. This is a dangerous sport, and it's none more so dangerous than when this guy's around.
Complete danger, that one, mate. I'm telling you. Complete danger. Ebony doesn't know how fucking lucky she got away with that one there, to be honest with you. But yeah, there we go. That's what we needed. The meet and greet IBF champion, Chebony Bridges, saw some new familiar faces receiving pictures and autographs. A lot of happy kids to meet their hero. My kid doesn't know who Ebony Bridges is.
I've never had someone come up to me with their own homemade t-shirt of my name. But when I was on tour one time in Boston, and one came up with her own homemade shorts with Rob Kelly on the ass. Now, I'm not sure if Ebony's response to that would have been the same as mine, but you never know.
But you like danger. Stranger danger.
Well, the difference is I doubt she went home with that shirt, and I know that you did, with the underwear.
Well, listen, I was fucking, I was prone to ignoring my spidey senses back in those days.
I thought at first this was Aussie's mate.
For a hamburger, I'll take that.
I thought this was Aussie's mate Stacey, but it's not. It's another fellow opponent. This is Gaz Keir Davis. So each to their own. But I bet he was in the group, isn't he? The Facebook group, you would imagine. He's lingering around there.
Just make sure you block him for any like the Nutters groups. Actually, we need to ban that. Be any danger in their fucking group.
I don't think he'll be coming in anytime soon. Here we are, MTK. Speaking of danger, we've got Lennox Lewis against Dillian Whyte. Pick'em, vote for your winner now, or swipe to play our free-to-play boxing Pick'em with real cash prizes. Dillian Whyte versus Lennox Lewis. Matty, you're from stateside. Who do you think would have won this one?
I think if that poll comes back anything like 99-1 with the 1% being user error, there's something fucking mentally wrong with these people, and they shouldn't be voting in boxing polls. Jesus
Who's
Christ.
asking that question, actually? Is that MTK asking that question?
I think so, yeah. It says
So
at the top
Daniel
left.
Kinahan's asking that question, basically.
It's the question that needs to be answered.
I don't know. Lewis in the third, fourth-ish?
Fucking Lewis is one of the all-time great heavyweights of all time. He's going to struggle with Dillian fucking Caveman.
I said
fucking
third
Whyte.
or the fourth. How much of a struggle is
is
6.5 minutes of work?
Look, I'm just putting them forward, boys. Here's Miggs Miguel 22. He said, just started listening to your pod. Love it. Just your bell end of the week. I came across it now discussing Ben versus Van Heerden. I'm a bit of a Twitter novice, so can I just paste the cuntish comment? I think that is worthy. He then tweeted out, was Ben versus Van Heerden a big fight? No argument, bro, just a legit question. And Everything Boxing jumped in and said it is 75% as big as Ben versus Avanesian. It's
So,
Everything Boxing again. Unfortunately,
I
Ozzy's
wish
not
Ozzy
here.
was here. I wish Ozzy was here for this one. Like Ozzy would be going fucking incandescent with rage, man. 75%. I like to know how he got his percentages. Actually, I like to know.
Maybe off that guy. Do you remember that guy who used to do the promoting? What was his name? Was it Matt Hamilton or something?
Oh,
going back a few years now, Andy.
aye.
The South African guy.
Guy take over boxing. He had something like so much cat. He actually offered me out for a fucking fight. I'll fight you. Was it Muay Thai? I says, mate, I ain't into that shit. But I was going to offer me. Was it £1,000 or something for a fucking square go? Can't mind. Fucking Raj. Anyway, he's fucking disappeared for years now. Actually,
Years and years. Yeah.
Yeah, thank fuck, man. Maybe he's in the loony asylum somewhere.
Probably. Matt Hamilton Boxing. Shout out. Sir Arthur Dane, that's Brian King, former podcaster extraordinaire, nominating Doug Fisher, who was tweeting away about Conor Benn. Me too. Not prime Tyson, but not shot Tyson either. Ben reminded me of the slower, more plodding, but still dangerous 90s version of Mike.
100%.
Dougie.
100%. This is true. I had a couple of mates tweet me he texted me last night saying that they see similarities of young Ben with Mike Tyson. I'm like, I didn't even respond to them. They actually tweeted me again the day after the game. It says, "Are you drunk? Are you hungover?" I still haven't responded. I'm disgusted that these are my mates texting me these fucking thoughts and opinions. I'm going to be saying to them actually in real time that he's a fucking casuals. He's a fucking no friends of mine no more. Actually coming out with that shit. Fucking Conor Benn is like a prime Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson.
This is Dougie as well. He's giving out belts. This is the Ring magazine, one of the esteemed belts in boxing.
That was more like a James Kirkland. He's more like a James Kirkland, man. That's what that performance kind of remind me of, was when Kirkland was taking people out.
That's a fair comparison.
People do that from time to time, and just we'll see if he runs into an Ashita,
He might do. Should we forgive Dougie for this one, Matty, do you think?
No.
I don't, man. This is a rough one.
Bit of compassion, Matthew.
But I do like Dougie because he gave us some time when we were just starting out the podcast. I'm soft on the guy. I like Doug. I give Doug pass. I give Doug a pass.
Steve, I'm going to put a vote and say, don't fuck his pass, revoke it, fucking put him up for it.
Andy has been here for over 400 episodes. No one else can claim that, so I guess fair enough.
Suck it, bitch.
There we are. Andy has also sent this one in to me from Matchroom. I haven't watched it in advance, so hopefully it's nothing too blue on this Sunday evening. We are a family show.
You've already proved you were British level. You've already proved you were European level. You've beat all those level guys now. Now you're going to world level. I think the only thing that can get in your way is just getting carried away. You've got to strike at the right moment as well.
Of course.
But that's why this fight's quite dangerous. Because
it's a banana skin, definitely.
It's like, it's a step up, but it's not the mega fight that's going to set you up for life.
Yeah, but
it's still dangerous.
Yeah, but I train as if Van Heerden is my world title fight.
The bullshit, man. Eddie just fucking rhyming it off. Just comes to him naturally. The bullshit just slides off the tongue just so naturally to him. It's just incredible. He's proven that he's above British level. You're proving that you're above European level. Yeah, you've no fucking beaten British and European level fucking champions, So yeah,
be sure that you're using lotion there, Eddie. Otherwise, you're going to chap the poor lad's dick.
Even Ed.
I don't know. Death Row Boxing has just tweeted me there over on Twitter. He says, check out the BT Sport Boxing YouTube channel. Fight breakdown and Dillian Whyte interview uploaded right now. No French broadcaster. A bit strange. What?
French broadcaster. I don't know what's going on here.
Thanks for that, Death Row Boxing. Not really sure what that's all about, but thanks for sending that one in. That's all the ones that I've got. I've got another one to upload, actually, a video. It might take a minute or two, given my dodgy connection. So if you want to jump in, Andy, and give any of yours, then Matty, you jump in straight after, and I'll unmute myself when I'm ready to rumble again, boys. Go ahead.
Cheers for putting in that Eddie one there, mate, for just, telling young Conor not to get carried away whilst blowing all sorts of fucking shit up his rusty bullet hole. So good to see that one. I'll put one in for Bob Allen, apparently, as well, or Top Rank, whoever it is. Bob is Top Rank, but apparently paying mob boss alleged mob boss, Daniel Kinahan, $4 million in consulting fees for Tyson Fury fights in Las Vegas. I think he maybe previously stated that he'd never done it before, so we'll wait and see. AB is reappeared on the fucking Instagram. It says, "Look, I don't fucking drink no more, so don't fucking ask me to take a shot with you, because I'm going to say, let's fucking do this. If you leave me alone, I love you. If you love me, just leave me alone." So AB getting a wee bit he's getting a wee bit strong-armed on this.
I disagree with your nomination, man. I think if someone has a problem and they're trying to stay clean, people should respect their boundaries.
I know. But it's funny at the end of the day, man. It's funny, because obviously, he's taking the piss. He's clearly got a problem with gambling and alcohol. But I like guys who see the problems, accept their problems, and fucking have a laugh about it at the end of the day. Because without laughter, you're just going to be fucking depressed and fucking miserable at the end of the day. So you've got to be able to take the piss in severe and serious circumstances to be fair. That's just my opinion at the end of the day. I'm a bit dark humour, put it that way. I'm real dark humour, so things like that, I can laugh at that. At the end of the day, I can laugh at myself as well, so fuck it, man. Who cares? David Diamante, obviously, I'll put him up. Who else we got? I don't think I've got anything else at this point, mate. Maybe... who else? Frank Warren, obviously. The people who've been responding to that picture that I put up about Ben Davison, Tyson Fury, and Isaac Lowe with the fucking superimposed comments of Kinahan is innocent, right? The amount of people that I've fucking caught out with this fucking picture, thanks to Steve for sharing it with me, it's been incredible. Actually, the guy's fucking saying that, is it for real? Does the American government not going to take any action about this?
Going to get Steve whacked as well there. Look at, see that?
Steve who?
My mate Steve fucking up north. I don't know any other Steves, actually. Everybody's just... A few of them are obviously taking it as a bit of a laugh and all that type of shit. But some people were taking it pretty seriously, of like, what the fuck is going on here? They see it, what's getting done about this? And they actually see this? This has got to be an old picture, surely. I'm like, dude, it's a fucking joke. It's a laugh. So I'll put that one up. I thought that was quality, that picture, mate.
Good stuff. This is still uploading. I'll just motor on anyway. Who cares? If I start going blotchy, you can let me know. Matty, any nominations from you?
I nominate anybody who mocked me and my great admiration for the jab of Amanda Stanionis. Suck my dick.
Who was saying that, Matty?
What?
Who was having a go at you about that?
Oh, Rob mocked me. Rob mocked me.
I'm always mocking you. I can't keep up.
Well, yeah. Can I really separate one for the other? I guess.
Ooh.
But no.
At least I'm consistent.
Any other nominations?
Best jab since Corte. The end.
He's got a good jab. Kessler had a nice jab too. Any nominations? Any others from you, Matty?
No. That's all I got.
Rob, any nominations from you, please?
Yeah, just one for myself. After all the fucking saga of Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte, and finally having a blockbuster fight, if you can call it that, that's on at regular hours that I don't have to fucking get up at mad hours to see. The missus are getting tickets for us all to go see Ed Sheeran next week, so that's why I'm going to be fucking looking at Castle on the Hill. Watching Fury. So I might make it on the post-fight pot. I don't know what's the time in the ring. You reckon 10:30?
That's
11 o'clock
huge,
maybe.
That's two huge hours.
Frank, man.
Weekends back to back, mate. That's
could be if it's 11, I might be able to catch it on the phone or something like. But yeah, but other than that, like I'm going to be listening to fucking some bullshit on a Saturday night.
Yeah. Well, I hope I hope that everybody enjoys The Shape of You that night, Rob.
Listen, yo, what was it?
Probably slumped over and slightly sad.
Yeah, a bit like tonight. What what was I going to say there? I had a fucking I don't know. Oh yeah, Eddie Hearn, Evening Ed. He broke his fingers body sparring with Ebony Bridges. Oh, I had another one as well. Yeah. No, not body sparring with Ebony Bridges. Body sparring with Frank Smith. So he's all flustered of late, and I'm sure the US sanctions on his good mate Daniel had him scrambling into body spar mode this week with Frank Smith. Would you stop bullying Frank Smith, man? It's you're a weight bully. Leave Frank Smith alone. He's fucking. You got too much height and weight on Frank Smith, even though he's up in weight himself, as Frank Warren said. He's a little fat. What do you call him? A little fat geezer or something like that. I'm not saying that. That was Frank that said it. But yeah, and then one for Ebony Bridges last night. She was having a fucking nightmare on the comms, man. She's fighting. She's commentating on the beautiful Alicia Baumgartner's contest with Lucas Matisse. Lucas Matisse's sister. What's her name? Mrs. Matisse. Probably shouldn't have attempted that. And she said, I think Baumgartner should start working the body because Argentinians have very tough heads. All of them.
I missed that.
And I thought, fucking hell, they're raiding Argentina for the DAZN opponents. Aren't this the worst fucking raid?
5 days notice. With 5 days notice.
So fucking. Listen, you say nothing about Baumgartner. Listen, we could fucking be friends about Celtic and Rangers, but don't you dare fucking say anything about Baumgartner.
Rangers and Celtic, mate. But yeah, listen, mate. I'll no fight you for it. I'll fucking, I'll take sloppy seconds. Don't worry about that.
Very advanced in our views on this pod, are we? When we're covering women's boxing.
That's why I had to do a spin-off, Rob. Why I had to do a spin-off.
I must be going down a bomb for the other listeners. Fucking hell. Yeah, so that's all for me.
Just before we do our picks, Matty, what are you going to be watching it next week? Are you going to pay for it on ESPN pay-per-view? Did you find out the price?
Of course he's
I
paying.
didn't find out the price, but yes, I'm going to be paying for it because yes, I am a sucker, and there's probably about a 70% chance I'll take a nap through most of the undercard.
Wait a minute, is that pay-per-view next week? Is that Katie Taylor, sorry? No,
that's a week after.
A week after, sorry, mate, sorry.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one a lot. Jamie saving the day with our first super chat of $1.79. Jamie, thank you. I appreciate you. Somebody has to pay the operating cost.
£1.79 coming in here. Right. Thanks, Jamie. Sorry, Rob, you going to throw something in there?
I was just throwing in a woo for the money. That's all.
Throwing in a woo. Right, here we are. I've waited a long time to get this uploaded through some bad connections, but it's finally here. Shout out to the Dr. FMG in the Patreon Nutters Boxing WhatsApp group. He has found this little gem. We don't play ice skating on the Asylum very often, but from 1988, a bit of American ice skating going on. What's all this about, you might ask? Well, let's see.
Our next competitors, representing the United States of America, please welcome Jennifer Benz and Jeffrey Benz.
What the fuck did I just watch?
Anybody recognise the name? This is some digging from Dr. FMG. Jennifer Benz and her brother Jeffrey Benz. Wouldn't be the same Jeffrey Benz who represented Dillian Whyte, would it be? That's Dillian Whyte's lawyer.
Is it?
Yeah, the Dr. FMG founder.
I tell you what, man, nothing's sacred these days. I'm telling you right now, if you fucking dig hard enough, you will find some shit on somebody. Fucking Frankie, baby, there's your fucking...
Frank.
Life, mate.
It makes you wonder why Nancy Kerrigan and not him.
That's what I was saying. I was going to say, yeah, Frank fucking bashed up that ice skater worse than Nancy Kerrigan.
That's the Benz siblings, Rob, no less. The Benz siblings.
Play the knees, boys. Take the knees.
Yeah.
His sister was kind of hot. His sister was kind of hot when I was 3.
Oh, dear. Yeah. Wasn't expecting that one myself. Shout out to the doctor, not Dr. Joseph, but the Dr. FMG. Okay, so we've had quite a few interesting ones. Let's recap them because we have gone around the houses, it's fair to say. So first of all, we had a bit of Conor Benn talk. We had the fatties. We had Frank in the car. We had Dodgy Dave. We had the guard going up with his camera. We had the Shite Disciples, we had U6 Hair, we had Father Stew, we had the Guard again, like Father Like Son, we had the Sun there. We had Ghost Morning from Isaac. We had this one, Ebony, and our pal.
Right, Rob. Isn't there something about Isaac Lowe and his posts? It's just fucking great. Just Jesus Christ.
He writes like he's just got hit by Isaac Cruz.
He's got the fucking proofreading of a neo-Nazi monthly newsletter.
Everything boxing.
Oh, fuck me, man. See his picture appeared on Twitter at ringside last night, or whatever the fuck it was, man. Maybe that'd be pedo fucking straw Matachi. Fuck me, man.
Fuck's sake. What kind of take is that?
Matty, you mentioned about newsletters. Reminded me once my missus had a copy of Therapist magazine, and I picked it up and I goes, "The Rapist." That's a bit of a funny name.
What's interesting is you're like, I need to read this magazine.
Is that a subscription?
Yeah, it's a stranger subscriber. I thought I knew you.
God,
15 years been married to you. This is what you do to me.
Sometimes they just nail it with those targeted mailers.
Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, Brian King. What else did we have? We had Ebbs. We had
I fucking got half of them there.
Diamante, Jeffrey Benz. Right, Matty, who are you going for?
Steve, I feel like you just have to give it to him and kind of close it out at this point in time and not touch on it until the end of the year for those nominations. But the saga of David Diamante has got to win it. And it just has to win it this one time. So it's in the winner's pool. So we have the saga of David Diamante to vote on at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm the same, mate. I'm going for Diamante. I mean, the fucking bionic man, he gets his fucking kneecap and his hands broken in fucking 17 fucking external places. At least he learn how to walk again. He needs to learn how to use a fork and knife again. Because a bit like RoboCop, and he's walking back again within 2 weeks. So Diamante for me.
Shout out to Ames. He says, was wondering where that was going. The clip, not the link in the chat. In reference to bestcams.fun, hot girls and boys 18 plus. Video chat. They've been trying to get in quite a few times tonight.
Fucking hell, man. Fucking, what's his name? What's his name? Fucking the guy, Rick. No, Ray Pops. You love that one.
He would have checked out when it said 18 plus, though. He would have been like,
Did you just say Rape Ops?
That was him in the magazine, wasn't it?
Ray Pops Monthly. There's 2 for David. He won last week as well, Rob. He could be on for 2 weeks in a row, retaining his title. Who are you going for?
Did he win last week? Diamante.
Pretty sure he did.
Yeah, Diamante, retain his title.
Yeah, he did. You know why? Because he reminds me. As you know, I'm a magnet for these kind of characters, so he reminds me of someone that I'd meet at work who'd be full of shit, and then I'd be trying to avoid him, and I'd fucking bump into him everywhere I go, and he'd be there, and then I went across the fucking Sri Lanka, and I'd be like, "Piss off, man, will you?" Like, so yeah, yeah, Diamante.
Well done, David. You are the Bellew of the Week for the second week in a row, episode 470. I think we delivered a good one this week. Back over to you, Matty. Thank you.
Oh, it was a good one, and I hope that everybody celebrating had a wonderful Easter. I had a great time on this episode 470. Smitto joined us earlier, as well as Bryn Butler, as well as Steve Wellings, Rob Kelly, Andy Patterson. I've been your host, Matt DiGelinardo. We will be reviewing Tyson Fury against Dillian Whyte next week and looking ahead to Amanda Serrano against Katie Taylor. One of the few women's fights that everybody actually in the boxing world seems to be excited about. So looking forward to that one. Until then, we will, you guys have a great week ahead, and we will see y'all next week.
We'll never forget.
Golly, that's good on me.
Go to animals! We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Grumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7-year ain't. 7-year ain't. I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die. Be safe.
I love boxing sounds.